People of African descent are high achievers and exist all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places and high positions, making positive contributions. In the spirit of recognition, we celebrate the most influential people of African descent in the MyPad Global Reckoning edition, where we showcase outstanding personalities at the highest positions in the largest, most influential and iconic institutions in the world, because our representation matters on the decision-making tables in politics and governance, business and entrepreneurship, media and culture, and humanitarian endeavors worldwide. Don't miss the MyPad Recognition Week following the opening of the annual United Nations General Assembly to see who made the most influential 100 global list.
Hello, we're at MyPad, Most Influential People of African Descent in New York. This is an award that honors influential and prominent Africans in conjunction with the UN, and they are all being honored tonight. There's 100 of them, and they're from all around the world, from Brazil, from Kenya, from Nigeria, from South Africa. A truly Pan-African event.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Camille Olufobi, and I am privileged to be the founder of this movement. I like to call it a movement.
I visited my grandfather for the first time in 1990, just before he came out of jail. And of course, they told me that I'm going to see your grandfather in jail. So I had a typical image of what jail was like. Concrete bars, a lot of, security, dogs, etc. But when I got there, I saw a beautiful house, more beautiful than the house I lived in. It had a pool, I never had a swimming pool. They had a VCR at the time, I didn't have a VCR, right? And we even watched the never-ending story. And he had a chef, it was just amazing, And that was the first time I knew, as a young person, what I wanted to do when I grew up. I told myself, when I grow up, I want to go to jail.
And it's a great initiative, one that should be supported and encouraged. And what we're working on is ensuring that Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora work together for the glory of Africa. And there shouldn't be a disconnect.
Are you excited to be here, and why?
I'm really excited to be here. I'm excited, first and foremost, to connect with other individuals. And so the more I can connect with other people here, it's just going to allow us to collaborate and to do more things across the continent. And that's why I'm really here.
Africa needs critical focus.
Why? Why does Africa need?
Because Africa needs to revamp.
Right.
Africa needs to come out of... Africa is going backward while the rest of the world is going forward. And it's only the young people, the kind of people that is being honored today, that are going to be able to take it to the next level because they understand what it is to build a new society.
One of the things I do believe is that people of African descent who already have crossed a certain level of threshold have a lot to offer and enhance that partnership between the people of African descent who live outside of Africa and the actual Africans. We have to reconnect on the same platform. It's almost like the Jews all coming back together.
It's been a glorious evening celebrating the best of African talent and connecting the diaspora to the continent. I'm Stephanie Basari and wish you a good evening.
Great. Thank you, Camille. Hi, everyone. Hello, I see some familiar faces. So great to see you all. I'm so excited to share this space with you and to be a part of Recognition Week again for our third year in a row, at least my third year in a row. So thank you, Camille. So excited to have been able to kick this off virtually from our homes or wherever we're calling in from. So extremely grateful. But I just wanted to add that we had our amazing Discovering Excellence training this morning from New York. And well, really from around the world. We had over 70 people joining us from their homes from around the world, from every corner of the world. And it was just so inspiring to be in a room of such impact. And so if you took part in the Discovering Excellence training in New York City in previous years, you might know what that was like, but yeah, just
red and black. Yep, the red and black game.
The win-win game.
The win-win game. There you go.
So we'll be continuing that tomorrow. But thank you, Camille. I was not expecting to ground, but I just want to I would say ground us in gratitude and ground us in possibilities and just ground us in the magnitude of this opportunity to be brought together virtually from our homes from all over the world to really use this platform to inspire and to continue to take MyPad, which began as an idea in Camille's heart, which is now so much more beyond him physically and in our spirits. And so I'm just grateful to you, Camille, and I hope that we can continue to contribute to that vision. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. All right, so let me hand it over to Rolika and Vusi, class of 2018 in the building. Thank you very much. All right, Rolika, are you there?
Yes, I am. We're in the building. Hi, everyone. My name is Rolake Akikube-Fulani, all the way from Lagos, Nigeria, which is the place to be, in case you didn't know. I'm sure Vusi will say South Africa is the place to be as well, but it is really. Vusi, so nice to be co-hosting with you. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Rolake. Good to see you. I'm coming in from Joburg, South Africa, the #1 country in Africa by a far mile. And it's such a pleasure to co-host with you, Rolake, from the #2 country in Africa.
Indeed. Well, as long as we're all in the rankings, that is what matters. Really, we're all on the league table. So honestly, guys, I'm a newbie because this is the very first time I have hosted anything with MyPad. And this is such an amazing platform. To get us started, I really am all about the spirit of celebration. And the two people who are going to be giving opening remarks next, there's so much to celebrate about them. We all know about Stephanie. She's being on CNN. She's a journalist. And in case you didn't know, most recently, she was named a Maurice Greenberg Yale World Fellow. Can we get some virtual claps for Stephanie? That is pretty big. 2020 Yale World Fellow in the time of COVID. So I'm sure her experience is going to be really interesting and unique and different. And of course, Robinson Ling. This is the first time I'm meeting him, but I'm in awe because he has education and training across his entire pedigree. His wife and his mom are both notable in their fields as well. Robinson, it's such an honor to have you. I heard so much about the Discovering in Excellence leadership training that you did, and apparently you blew everyone out the water. So without further ado, I'm going to ask each of you to just fire us up, give us your opening remarks. Stephanie, you've been advising this platform for many, many years. You know, what are your thoughts about where we are today in 2020 at MyPad? You've got 5 minutes, and after that, I'll call on Robin and just have a small discussion with you both. So over to you guys.
First of all, thank you so much, Warake, for the wonderful introduction. And Vusi, I mean, gosh, are we doing hate speech tonight? Is that? I mean, you know, come on. But yeah, it's my great honor and pleasure to address you today, because my part is so dear to my heart, and Camille is a brother to me, and I've been a great fan and supporter of this work. You know, this incredible work that Camille has been doing, and it is a movement, Camille. You can call it that. It really has grown so beyond anything that I could have imagined, and I'm sure I speak for you as well. And it's a powerful movement, so well done to you. And it's very much a movement that aligns with my profound belief that Africa and its diaspora must align to create the change that we so keenly want to see on the continent. And first of all, I want to tell a story about Camille, Hurricane Camille, as I call him. I'm sure you know what I mean. Hurricane Camille swept into my life in 2017, and he left a trail that an indelible trail that I've been trying to recover from ever since. You know, so it was 2017, and Camille was trying to set up a meeting with me, and and you all know what I'm talking about. He's very persistent, and this, you know, he tried very hard to set up a meeting, and I was just like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? You know, we had a meeting, we had a coffee, and I just fell in love with him and the idea, the passion, the zeal, the real kind of drive to bring the people together. You know, he's not called a connectologist for nothing. And so, you know, I tell that story not to embarrass you, Camille, but to really show that you are a force of nature and you never take no for an answer. And
Your speech has 1 minute left.
Has just been incredible. And so, you know, be proud of yourself. Because
you just created a hashtag, Hurricane Camille. Wow.
That conversation really touched me, and it kind of really blended well with my mission, which is to change the narrative of this continent through my storytelling, through my journalism. And you are doing it by bringing all the African people of African descent together from wherever they are. I can't even believe the places that you've been to. Cape Verde, you know, you've gone far flung, you know, the continent to bring together people of African descent, and it is truly remarkable. And it's been impressive to see how far you've taken this mission and the people that you've brought together for the good of Africa, because, you know, I truly believe, and I know you believe that, and we all do, that when Africa wins, we all win. So thank you, Camille. Thank you so much for this opportunity to address.
Thank you very much.
2020.
Thank you so much for those powerful words, Steph. Hurricane Camille hashtag. That is the reigning hashtag for my class 2020. But from hurricanes to education, I'm going to ask Robinson Lee, Executive Director at Momentum Education, to give his opening remarks. Over to you, Robinson.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for that lovely introduction. In this moment, I'm thinking about something my colleague Melissa Castro said right before we started, which is let's be grounded in gratitude and possibilities. And in this moment, I am incredibly grateful. And I'd like to say thank you. I was at that very first 2017, Camille paused the clip to see me. And for the last 3 years, I've been able to participate with Momentum Education's partnership with MyPad in the Discovering Excellence training. And I can, in this moment, say that my participation with MyPad has been a great honor of my life. And today we completed the first day of our Discovering Excellence training. And, you know, since this is a reunion, some of you have been there before. And to be a part of that training, knowing that at many points this year, it was not promised to happen, right? To be a part of this week, seeing so many familiar faces, knowing that at no point was that promised to happen. I'm just grounded in gratitude for Camille for continuing to follow your vision and continuing to follow your heart and having a heart that includes all of us in it. And I just want to say thank you, right? our training today was amazing. We had people we'd go into breakout rooms and have 5 people, 5 different countries. And the biggest complaint of the whole training was we need more time just to connect with each other, to build with each other. And I think we could have gone those breakout rooms for 5 days or 10 days or a whole month. And I think the complaint at the end of that training would still be, we need more time to build with each other. We need more time to connect with each other. And that's why I think MyPad is so powerful. And I just want to share, for this to be happening in 2020, given how challenging 2020 has been, and I would say 2020 has been challenging for my belief for anyone who lives on this planet. But I think it's been, thank you. But I think it's been specifically challenging for people who care deeply with their hearts and minds. And I think MyPadians do that. I think it's been particularly challenging for people who connect and thrive off relationships. And I think MyPadians do that. And I think it's been particularly challenging if you are committed to exploration and committed to making the world a better place. And MyPadians do that. And at the same time, I think that if you are innovative, and MyPadians are innovative, if you are willing to try new things and are constantly looking to improve, and MyPadians certainly do that, if you know that you have a network, which MyPadians certainly do, and if you know you want to have an impact on the legacy and generations to come, which MyPadians certainly do, then I think this is an opportunity for us to continue to come together to build together. And so I just want to say I'm grateful that I don't have to go through 2020 without MyPad and MyPadians, and I don't want to go through any year in the years to come without MyPad and those MyPadians. So,
Thank you, Robinson.
Yeah, fantastic, Robinson. Such great and powerful words, really beautiful. And speaking about caring with hearts and minds, I'm just going to have a small discussion with both of you. But Steph, 2016 was, of course, the Chibok girls. And one of the greatest lessons I learned was just the power of living in a global village where people are forced to connect to make change. I mean, I think about the tremendous publicity that particular campaign to bring the girls back home meant. And in a world now where we live with COVID-19 pandemic, it's like every year has been marked with some major global headwind. And I just wanted to get your thoughts as to what it really means to truly have a global village that forces change. Is this momentum that we're going to see going forward over the next decade? We saw it with the various movements, the BLM movement in the US, but how long can we sustain this momentum? And are you optimistic that we will continue to connect to find voices that will bring change on issues that really matter to us?
Thank you. Great question. I mean, unprecedented times that we're living in, and I think at the base of it, so is what underpins this moment is change. I see this time as a period of resetting of our planet, of our ideals, of our kind of values. For one of the things that really struck me being at home in those 6 months of lockdown was how much we focus on material things, vanity. I just saw how vain a lot of things that I desired, excuse me, these things were vain. And you had people in mansions, people with their private jets, people with their designer bags and clothes and shoes. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything with those things. So in the end, the things that mattered to me at that and in those moments was my family and staying alive and staying safe. So really, it was about going back to basics, about going back to the things that we know that are fundamental: relationships, family, friendships. Those were the things that really held me together in this period, and that's what we kind of saw. Could Black Lives Matter have erupted in a way it did if there were other distractions like football games, like concerts, like outings? It felt like such a pivotal moment because all the distractions that we normally have were not there. And so it really focused our minds to get everybody out on the streets. So I really feel that this time, I'm a spiritual person, a person of faith. I think that there was a kind of spiritual dimension to this time. We have the physical dimension of COVID and the health and impacts, but spiritually there was a shift, and there's a shift required. Our world has changed. we can't go back to the same as before.
This session has 2 minutes left.
And movements like MyPad are really fundamental to change and to bring people together. So I hope that answers the question.
Great, great. I really, really love that concept of a shift. But you know, Robinson, that shift does not happen in a vacuum, and leadership has been so key to a lot of the change movements that we've seen. And even in the time of uncertainty around COVID-19, leadership has been key. People of African descent are still looking for strong voices and powerful leaders. How optimistic are you that we have the ingredients and the recipe for developing leaders that will carry us on over the next decade? So, you know, cast your crystal ball 10, 15, 20 years down the line. Do we have the leaders today for tomorrow?
As I look into my crystal ball, I would say my belief is yes, right? And my belief is, you know, you talk about the importance of leadership. I also think this time has shown how important leadership is in the absence of leadership. And so for me, I think there's been a lot of places where one could be looking to be led based on who has a particular title or position. And I would say the movements that are occurring at this current day and age are not being led by those who have titles and positions to lead it. It's from those who are no longer willing to wait for leadership to step up. And so for me, I'm inspired by all those people who are continuously across the planet to step up and are not waiting to have this particular recognition in order to recognize their value and their worth and their contribution to the movement.
The session has 30 seconds left.
Great responses. And I'm just going to check in there with the timekeeper to make sure that, do we have any time for one more question to both of them, or should we just...
Bro, look at the first lady's in, if you can acknowledge her.
Okay.
Oh, she is. Okay, great. Okay, fantastic. So I'd like to welcome Her Excellency Lady Fatima Mada Bio, the First Lady of Sierra Leone. Can we have some virtual claps? Fantastic. Do we move on to that set now?
Yes.
No, I think we should take one more question.
Yeah, yeah, great idea. So we come to the end of the decade for MyPad in 2024. So I just wanted each of you to answer this question very briefly, is tell us what you think this MyPad movement will have achieved by 2024. I'll go with you first, Stephanie.
Wow. So this MyPad movement, well, gosh, you know, we hope and, you know, and the signs are there that there will be greater collaboration. There will be efforts to kind of pool our resources together and you know, kind of bring change in leadership, an area of leadership, make money together. We talk about that, pulling our resources together to invest in each other, invest in businesses on the continent. You know, these are kind of aspirations and things that I have, and I know that Camille has for MyPad. So those are the kind of things that I would like to see. And I would hope to see more travel, inter-country travel. Like I would love to visit other MyPadians.
Sierra Leone.
Yes, Sierra Leone. I've been to Sierra Leone, a beautiful country. And, you know, I'd like to go to Cape Verde and Brazil and all these other places. So travel, finance, and leadership.
Can I, Rolake, let me chime in there. So let's travel around the world very quickly. Just everyone who has their video on, can you just tell us, unmute your mic and just tell us where you're sitting from. I see Brazil, I see Eric in the US. Just let's go around the world really quickly. Can we do that? I see the First Lady smiling. Good to see you, Mac. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. And true story of connectology. So I met her through Stephanie, CNN, Busari. That's how I met the First Lady. So you see how we're all connected.
Awesome.
All right, so let's go around the world. So our country director, Nina, in Brazil. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so Brazil, we have Brazil. Anybody else from Brazil? Let's see Brazil in the house.
Yes, I'm here as well.
Hello,
Okay,
everyone.
Ernesto. You're a nuclear scientist, right? And a Brazilian diplomat. I always like to put you on the spot for that.
My goodness.
All right, so South America, Latin America, if you're here, just let's hear you. Good. Venezuela?
I'm Venezuela, but I'm in the US right now. Kissimmee, Florida.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, South America, Latin America, if you're here, let's hear you.
I'm Haiti from the Caribbean.
All right, fantastic. Good to have you. Okay, diaspora, where else do we have? North America? Eric, I see you. Black and abroad.
Yes, Atlanta, Georgia, man. It's getting cold here, but feel the hot
You know,
Atlanta.
Eric Martin, you run a group called Black and Abroad, and Stephanie just spoke about more interconnectedness between us as a people, traveling and seeing each other. I mean, I'm going to put you on the spot and just say, based on what you do, I mean, where do you see us going? You know, Black and being abroad, what that means, what that looks like.
I will say, well, first I want to say hey to Stephanie, because she was one of the original reporters that covered the story on my company. So, hey, Stephanie. Where do we see this going? So there's so much interest in Africa right now. Of course, we traveled all over the world with our trips, but there's been this, I'd say over the past 2 years, there's been this increased demand for African travel, whether it be for ancestry reasons or people seeing the stereotypes being debunked on social media. You know, before Instagram and Facebook, there was this like mystical disconnect between the African diaspora here in the US and Africa, you know, the African on the African continent. So we're now seeing this influx of interest in African travel, which is so unfortunate because COVID is kind of like, you know, it's shifted everything. But I do see this pent up increase in interest. So once the borders lift back up and everything opens back up, we'll be able to pick up where we left off from the year before.
So without being able to travel physically, I mean, we're literally going to go around the world. Anybody else from the diaspora outside of Africa? And then we'll move, as Vusi said, the first country in Africa, we'll go to Vusi. Anybody else from the diaspora? Mario, we see you. How are you, buddy?
What's up, everybody?
Okay, good. Just tell us where you're sitting out of. What city and country are you in?
I'm in Toronto, Canada, and it's also chilly here, more chilly than Atlanta. Just to say, I'm closer to the North Pole.
All right, so that's Mario, the guy that walked across Africa from Cape Town to Cairo on foot.
I don't know how y'all black people do it and white people wear the. I ain't trying to be funny about this. Gotta put it out there. There's a whole continent. I don't know how y'all do it.
Absolutely.
That's a good
Lola,
question.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say hello from Sweden. Speaking of cold countries, hello from Sweden.
Yeah, Vusi, what you got to say about that?
I dated a Swede. That's why it didn't work out.
All right, we're gonna give the diaspora. Anybody else diaspora? Where are you? So we have a Black Iranian with us, right? The Black Iranian Collective. Where exactly are you right now?
Absolutely. I'm based in LA, and indeed, there are people of African descent in Iran.
Absolutely. That's why you're hosting the ceremony tomorrow. We want to get the world to know people of African descent exist sometimes in unexpected places. All right, so if we're done with the diaspora, let's move inside Africa. And I'll give the First Lady the first shot, just to tell us where she's sitting out of in Africa.
I could guess that.
Good evening from my end. Well, I'm from West Africa, not South Africa. I am from West Africa, Sierra Leone, the country that have everything that you're looking for.
There you go. And you're sitting in what city in Sierra Leone?
At the moment, you won't believe it, I'm actually in Kenema district because today our political party actually elected my husband to be the leader of the party. So I'm like running
Wow,
from
congratulations.
the real world. This is the real world.
Absolutely. I wanted you to say the word Freetown because I'm looking forward to you inviting us all to come to Freetown.
Well, Freetown, as it's called Freetown, it's the free city. You have to come and check it out. You need to be here to understand why it's called free.
Absolutely. All right, good to have you on. I'm going to hand back to Inside Africa to Lagos. Rolake, go ahead. Let's, I think we just took a trip around the world. Are we good?
That was a really great tour. That was a great tour of Africa. And there's a little trivia First Lady, which I tell us about later. She's multifaceted, multi-talented, and quite the gifted professional in every sense of the word. So I think last very brief words to Robin Singh to round off this section. What do you hope to see by 2024?
Absolutely. Well, I think about what just happened the last few minutes, right? So I would say the people, to list all the results and goals I'd like to see by 2024, I would need more time, and the MyPad timekeeper would cut me off. But what we just saw was connection, and we just saw what it feels like to have a network. And so for me, it's not just the results we're going to see by that time, because I'm clear that we're going to be continuing to create goals, whether it's economic, equity-driven, empowerment-driven. What to me is so special about MyPad is the experience of not accomplishing those goals by yourself. And I think sometimes when you're in a leadership position, it can be quite lonely. And the hope is that all of these MyPadians who are already accomplishing so much are also having the experience of accomplishing it together and being able to share that load.
Great stuff, Robinson. There's that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So great note to end. Now we're going to shift gears, right? And in the spirit of celebration, I'm just so thrilled to introduce a formidable woman.
All right. So that's connection. Vusi, over to you. Whenever that happens, it's over to you now.
I'm happy to take over.
Absolutely.
Hey,
let's see.
You're back. Rolake, you there?
Yes,
looks like
I was always there, but go ahead, Vusi, actually. Happy to shift gears to you, Vusi. Go ahead.
We'd had a discussion. I'm happy that you do it. I'll jump in after the first.
No, I want to do that. I want to have a conversation with Vusi before we go to the first lady. Vusi, there's something you said that stuck with me for so long. So I want us to have a conversation about the supercar. And you said something about the fact that everybody looks at one of us. If one of us does something, we assume that they've figured it all out, right? And no one is thinking, how can I create tires for that supercar that you built, or do windows for you, and be a collective in, creating more possibilities for us as a people of African descent. It's always stuck with me, and I find myself in a place where I want us to have that conversation now that we're together with other MyPadians. Can you just contextualize that conversation?
So thanks for that, Camille. And I think it's a great springboard based on what Robinson said, right? Because for me personally, one of the greatest leadership journeys I've had to go through is the recognition that authenticity is not weakness. And I think we grow up in a world where we are taught about archetypes of success. And the world predefines what success looks like, how it walks, how it talks, how it sounds. This idea that you've always got to have it figured out. The truth is, none of us do. It's a bit like playing jazz. As you're going, you're making it up, but it sounds good, right? And so one of the hardest lessons I personally had to learn, and I think this is kind of what emanated in this conversation, was the farther I went and the higher I went, the more I realized that there were fewer and fewer of us.
Right.
And that rather than us seek to expand the size of the room, what we tried to do was to expand our size in the room. So we weren't really thinking about how do we make the room bigger so that it can take more people? How do we make the table longer so it can seat more people? How do we make the buffet, bigger so that it can feed more people? we were thinking about, how do I eat the most? How do I occupy the chair at the table? And how do I occupy the biggest size of the room? And I noticed it when I realized that we were competing in areas and industries where we always is perhaps too exclusive, it's perhaps too broad a word, but we were mostly in downstream non-value adding activities. So we fight each other for the scraps at the table rather than really think about what's the source and the root, because most value in things is the source and the root. So we actually think about this, but the real value in technology is based around the composition of that technology. But try and show me any technological device today that doesn't have a mineral industrial complex that is extractive from the African continent. Whether it's your phone, your tablet, your TV, it comes from some part of the continent. But rather than us competing on every single part of that value chain, if Robinson starts a business that makes cell phones, Vusi wants to start a business that makes cell phones. He doesn't think, well, Robertson has started a business that makes cell phones, I'm going to make the operating system. And then somebody goes, well, if I'm going to make the operating system, I want to have the exclusive rights to run the transactions that go on the operating system. I want to build the app store. I want to, so we weren't thinking in value chain. And that for me is how you make the room bigger. You make the room bigger by recognizing that if we work together as a value chain, we augment each other's competencies rather than compete with each other in areas of competencies that are small, narrow, and often the entry point of any industry. And so for me, real value really is about how do we, even on a platform like this. So for me, I think about how do I make Camille shine? Because I recognize that if I make Camille shine and I make my pad shine, then it makes every my Padian shine. And it means every space where we occupy, that identity means something. Final thought for you. We, in my mind, and I if I'm wrong, I'm happy to be corrected. We are, in South Africa, in the Zulu language, we have this word Ubuntu, which means I am because you are. And so if you think about how cultures define themselves, in the European culture, they say, I think, therefore I am. We go, I am because you are, right? And I think we need to take that much, much further, way beyond the language, way beyond the conversationing, but we actually need to begin to action on it. We need to act on it. And we need to be honest with each other, but also patient with each other. Recognize that it ain't going to be perfect, but if it was going to be perfect, it would have been done already. So I'm not looking for Camille to be perfect. I'm looking for Camille to have honest intent, and I'll meet him wherever he is. And I'll help, and I'll play a role, and I'll augment. And where he has a shortcoming, if I'm strong, I'm going to be there. Because one day, I'm going to have a shortcoming, and I'm going to count on my brother or my sister or Lucky to be there. I'm going to count on Melissa to call me out and go, dude, you made that statement, that video went viral. You shouldn't have said that because this is why. And so if we're not a community of honesty and safety, then we're always going to seek for a way to occupy the biggest size of the room rather than to expand the room so that
That resonates. I'm going to ask that we let that settle. Right? So Rolake, I'm going to hand back over to you while that settles down. Are you back? So you can go on with the First Lady.
Yeah, I'm still taking it all in, Vusi, such powerful words. And, I've really watched you for a long time, and you actually really practice what you preach. And that whole concept of just having honest conversations and being patient with one another is so key, because we're all on different journeys of growth. So thanks for those insights, Vusi. We're going to come back and pick your brains more later. But before that, we'd like to hear from Her Excellency, the First Lady of Sierra Leone, who I'm sure has some wonderful words to say. But I have to give her some accolades. There's so many things that stand out about Her Excellency, but there are just a couple of things that I thought would be worth pointing out. She's extremely passionate about the empowerment of women and girls around the world, not just in Africa. And did you know she actually won the Best Supporting Actress award for a film called Mirror Boy? I don't know how many people remember Mirror Boy. It's probably been almost 10 years old, right? Camille, I think. And so Her Excellency First Lady Bio, it is an honor to invite you to give us your opening words, to give us your motivational words, and to just share with us some of the great work and initiatives that you're spearheading in Sierra Leone, around Africa, and around the world. So welcome, Her Excellency Bio. Good to have you with us.
Thank you so very much. Kamel, it's an honor to see you again. And I know it's only when I come to the UN I'm saying, oh, is Kamel around? But it's an honor seeing you. And I wanted to say that I'm very saddened to hear the passing of Chadwick, because remember I mean, you're on board of us at the same time, and giving us the opportunity to see the film at the UN, and you know, shutting down the UN just so we can promote Sierra Leone, getting His Excellency to watch a movie in 22 years before that day. I think that those achievements that we achieved together in one day, and I am very saddened. My sympathy to every one of us, because I believe when we lost someone as great as Chadwick, Africa, well, for Sierra Leone, I know you all know his father or mom, one of his parents are from Sierra Leone, so he is a brother. And we're very saddened that this happened, but he actually just reminded us of Camille. And I wanted to say, you have an eye to select great people from Africa and African descent. You have an eye and a vision to actually see through things that we don't see through. And I'm very honored to be part of this club, because you know, listening to everyone talking and just listening to us talking now, talking about honesty among one another, I think that is a very important message that in Africa we need to start carrying, because we have a problem with that in Africa. You know, people will be honest with you only to a certain point, and then unfortunately, if they start getting what they want and they're getting it not from you, that honesty, you know, will just disappear from nowhere. So honesty is a very important thing that we need to look at in Africa. I'm going to be 40 in November 27. So I am looking forward to that big 40 and excited. But after my part, honestly, life is just, I know I've been working. I know I have worked like crazy woman for a very long time before I become the first lady. But, you know, 7 months into the reign of being a first lady, my part saw my work and decided to invite me. I think that was like a responsibility you bestow on me to say, you know what, girl, you need to go out there and do more. And I wanted to do more, and I wanted to keep you people proud. And I wanted to make sure that if no one is saying what needed to be said in Africa, I will say it and damn the day and wait for the consequences and don't care. So that's exactly what I'm doing. You know, I have a campaign, and my campaign is ruthless and is vicious in the sense that when you are chasing pedophiles, you're no one's friend. And I have a campaign called Hands Off Our Girl. Hands Off Our Girl has been recognized by the United Nations. Hands Off Our Girl has been recognized by the African Union. Hands Off Our Girl has been recognized around the world. Hands Off Our Girl is a household name in my country. But unfortunately, the situation in my country is getting crazy. And it's not only getting crazy in Sierra Leone, but it's getting crazy in Africa. The rape situations in Africa now, it's not that rape of passion. It is violent and very, very violent now, because basically they rape you and they silence you. Yeah. And not too many people are talking about this. Not too many people want to talk about this. Not too many people want to associate their country with issues like this. And I believe that the more we keep silence, the more the crime continue, and the more the equality we're looking for, we will never achieve that equality if we don't start to see each other as equals. You know, equality is not about our bank balance. Equality is not about the color of your skin. Equality is not about the height you have, but equality is seeing another person and respecting that person's opinion and wants to be with that person, not because of what they have, but just share a room with that person and try to understand and learn from them. I mean, I've been on for the last half an hour, and I'm listening to all these great minds, and I'm learning a whole lot of stuff. And every time you listen to different ideas, you know that the world you're living, you need to move away from that a little bit to understand that things are moving on. And this is a group, a whole lot of people here that have different minds, that are doing great things, that are really doing wonderful things wherever we find ourselves in the world. But then as an African, we're proud of one another. We're proud of what we're doing. Africa needs all of us right now. Africa needs our voices. Africa needs our talents. Africa needs everything that we have, because the fourth revolution is around the corner. And the fourth revolution is the one that will define us Africans. People are saying we're going to have the youngest population in Africa by 2050. But that youngest population, is it going to be a population that will be very relevant for our continent, or is it going to be a useless population? If we don't educate our people, if we don't expose our people, if we don't make our people understand what is their right, if we don't give the rights to our children, if we don't educate our children to understand that being Black is being beautiful and proud, if we don't do these things, then by 2050, we will have all our kids who don't want to be associating themselves with Africa, because everything about Africa will continue to be the dark ages and the dark places. So I'm saying to you guys, you have so much to offer to Africa. You have so much that you are giving. It is more frustrating as a first lady, because you know what? I keep saying to people, give me a prescription what a first lady is like, because I don't see it in any dictionary. I have not seen one, and I am just going to be true to myself and do the things that I believe that will change, mindset and change our people. We find ourselves in a very difficult situation. When you're a first lady, if you look nice today, you are taking government money and make yourself look nice. If you eat food, you are eating our government food. If you, even though before you become this person, you have been living your life, you've been living that life, you've done a whole lot for yourself. But then when you're a first lady, nobody sees that anymore. Automatically, they just see you as just their personal property. And because they're your personal property, they will say whatever, they say anything about you. And guess what? As a first lady, you just need to shut up. And this first lady don't know how to shut up. So then there's a problem.
Let them have it.
Let
them have it. Let them have it.
Well said. So well said. Wow. So well said.
Huge problem. And the huge problem is the fact that, you'll be surprised to know that people in the diasporas, people who are sitting in the diaspora, people who believe, who will obey every laws, everything they gave to them in the diaspora, they will obey to the T, are the ones that are against everything we do in Africa. They're the ones that will break all the rules. They're the ones that will not respect our laws. The ones that, you come, if you say, I live in England for 22 years. If you tell me it's curfew in England, I know I'm not going to go out, because I know if I go out, there will be consequences. Here, when you say curfew, they say, oh, this government just want to put curfew because they want to consolidate power. Who want to put curfew to consolidate power? Who want to be in the house? Who, So people just don't like to respect law and order in Africa. People don't think law and order is supposed to be in Africa. But then when we're in the diaspora, we're in America, we obey everything, anything that is thrown at us, even when it is not right, we don't say anything. So when I saw the Black Lives Matter movement, I was in trouble for that one too, because, you're an African first lady, you should not comment on Black Lives Matters. And the last time I checked, I'm an African and I'm Black.
Right.
If I'm Black, whatever person is, it matters to me. So, it's like you are so restricted. The other day, when I was watching the Donald Trump debate, I'm sorry, I'm not voting in America. It is not my problem who America elects. That's not my problem. But the debate was chaos. So I put that on my social media, like, we watched chaos last night. I said Donald Trump was actually instead of talking to American people.
Vusi woke us up about that.
I said, you're talking at Biden. And, I have a whole lot of people saying you're a first lady, you can't say this. And I'm thinking, for goodness sake, please. I am not Floyd. I'm not Floyd. Like, please, I can't breathe. I need to breathe. Somebody make me breathe. So that's the situation. We are restricted. But then you people are in a very good position where you can say whatever you need to say, not in a bad way, but if what you say will help our continent, please use your voice for us. I am not going to I'm not going to be silenced, but our voices need to be heard. Things are happening in Africa that are not supposed to happen. The rapes that are happening here, I know during this coronavirus issue all over the world, you know, rape and SGBV violence has risen in every country. But the rate it's happening in Africa is unbelievable. And I'm telling you, a whole lot of people are too ashamed to even talk about it. And I am talking about it. I am going to continue to scream, and I'm going to continue. I have managed through the government of my country, we have managed to have a special court. And since we had that special court, if you come to our court, then you know you're finding our trouble. So the best thing you do, you don't come to our court. And that court sits only for, you know, rapists. And for under my watch, a rape victim will not be victimized twice, not under my watch.
I think this is a good time for Rolake to ask the question we talked about. How can we support you? Because what I've heard you say so far is the restrictions that comes with your office. So Rolake, I think this would be a good time for us to.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you already answered it to some extent by talking about the power of using our voice. And all I'm hearing is quite a lot of courage and conviction from you, which is very infectious. I don't know about you guys, but I'm so like, you know, just in awe of your courage and conviction in your position. But are there any other things that we can really do to help drive your agenda, which is a positive agenda? Particularly as it concerns, you know, rape, sexual violence, and all the other issues you deal with around gender inequality.
I believe every African have a voice, and I think what we need in Africa is one thing. If every African president have in their mandate, it should be in their mandate. It's not something that should be on the sideline. This is supposed to be as priority, that the protection of women should be in their mandate. It's not, you know, if the world say, well, if you're not protecting your women, we don't give you our money, because we're still beggars. We still go back to them and say, hey, can you give us this, give us that? So if they're the one giving us all of this, I think they should give us conditions on this money. And this condition should also be on gender equality. I'm tired of going to all of these international conferences where they talk about gender equality and you don't even understand which of the gender are they talking about. You know, if you're telling me about gender equality, let us spell it out. Women, we've started this journey since the beginning of the world. Every other gender has come and they have been successful. Why is it that issues of women are not taken seriously around the world? I don't know. So your voice, not just for Africa, but then the people that are giving Africa, because until Africa begin to stop begging, until we're able to feed ourselves, until we're able to take care of our own affairs, you know, the people that are giving us, they need to put conditions on these money and say, hey, we're giving you this, but then when we hear this number of rape in your country, or if we hear this number of violence against women in your country, unfortunately, we will not help you again. See if every African president will not make us priority.
Absolutely. I mean, would it also support you? I mean, you talk about, you know, the global community. What about us as MyPatents as a community? I know many of us speak out against it. I remember Vusi wrote about it. A number of the males here have written about it, and the E for she. So is that a top priority for you? Is that, what about investments into Sierra Leone? What can we do? I mean, heritage tours, you know.
Like I said to you at the beginning, this is one of the most beautiful countries in Africa. Anything to do with business is here. We have all the minerals in the world. It's in our country. We have everything. It's in this country. So
I can do a connection there with Eric Black and Abroad. I mean, let's start looking at, connecting people of African descent on heritage tours to Freetown, Sierra Leone. I can't wait to go myself. So there are diamonds in Sierra Leone. So what can we do with that, Vusi? I mean, those of us in mining, let's work together.
You were interested in things like that, but if we're talking about tourism, also we have the most fantastic beaches around the world. We have, I keep saying to people, everybody sing Amazing Grace, Amazing Grace. I don't know how many people know where Amazing Grace was actually composed. Who wrote Amazing Grace? It was actually done in Freetown.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Here, and the whole world is singing Amazing Grace. But who talk about Freetown when they sing it? Nobody. So these are the things. There's so much you can learn in our country. There's so much you can see here. If you come to White Sands and the beach, there is no place like Sierra Leone. I can assure you that. So,
all right. So you invite us for your 40th birthday. We'll all come. We'll come celebrate.
Unfortunately, because of coronavirus.
COVID, I know.
Around the world. So, but then, when I came to your platform, I said to you, the My Part event should not just be a New York event. It should be
an African event. You did.
And I still stand by that. It should be an African event where we'll move around, because when you come to my country, then you'll see the things that you think we can develop in this country. If I go to another country, I will see things there that I think we can develop. If you don't see, you don't know. So
absolutely,
I would offer you guys the opportunity to come and see this beautiful country, and maybe with you guys also, we can help and scream loud and let the people understand that if you are my Padian, we're just not easy to silence. So,
I like that. It's a good one.
That's what I'm looking forward to. I don't know, whatever it is that we can do together, whatever opportunities that you think our two countries can benefit from each other, please let me know, and I'll create a space and see how we'll take it from there.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, Roka, over to you and Vusi.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, First Lady. That was really excellent. I mean, you clearly had an impact. Someone said in the chat box that coming from a First Lady, this is music to my ears. So, First Lady, you've been so impactful. Thank you so much. And Camille, the reunion next year, 2021, we're in Africa. You name the country and the city, will be there. I'm gonna, right, Camille, the ball's in your court now. So I'm gonna hand over to my brother on the league table, Vusi.
And I think the opening song at the next reunion is Amazing Grace. I can see Robinson hitting the lead. I see Melissa on falsetto. I've got Mark Elaine doing bass at the back. Francisco is playing the bass. Come on, y'all. We got a whole band in here, man.
We do. I'll play the guitar.
Amazing Grace. That's what we're doing. That'll
Play the word. I love it.
Thank you, Rolake. Thank you so much for facilitating those conversations, First Lady. We thank you, we honor you, we appreciate you. One of the things about which I think every single conversation and every person in this conversation is fully cognizant is the rather unpleasant but bitter truth, which is that the place of truth is a lonely one. And if you stand for your truth and you're consistent in your truth, it's not a place where most people are willing to go. So that you're willing to do it and willing to stand there, I assure you, even if we are quiet, we see it and we're inspired by your courage. And from that inspiration, we ourselves will try to do better. So I think let's move us to the next segment of our program. And what we've got the Rwandan story. We've got Patrick Nzenga, Claire Akamazi, and Eric Soul, who will be chatting to us a bit about what you should know about the beautiful, beautiful country of Rwanda. Spoiler alert, I've just opened an office in Rwanda. So we've spent the past year doing a DD. We've bought a phenomenal business that helps and finances entrepreneurs in Rwanda. And so I'm going to be spending an awful lot of time there. But I want to hand over to Patrick, Claire, and Eric.
All right, I believe Patrick, you're in here. Eric Soul.
Yeah.
Sure. We're in the call. Yeah, so
Yes, I'm there.
hi everyone. Thanks for having.
Patrick, please carry on.
So,
Patrick,
Eric, you wanna start?
are you in Kigali right now?
We are.
Yes,
I am in Kigali. I'm
I'm
Eric.
in
Nice to
Kigali
meet
right
you.
now.
I'm in Kigali.
All right, so let just from a place of introduction. So Eric Soul is literally a national figure, a creative in Rwanda that can really help us bring that narrative to perspective. And Patrick is in the business sector. So one of the 4 pillars of MyPad is politics and governance, which is why we invited Claire, who's on the cabinet of Rwanda, works very closely with President Kagame. She's a MyPadian. So there's politics and governance, business and entrepreneurship, media and culture, and also humanitarian. So that's why we have the diversity of this group. So I mean, I would ask that Patrick goes first and talk about what makes Rwanda good for business, open for business. Demystify Rwanda for us. What makes it work?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Camille and Busi, for letting me, be part of this session and moderating it, and of course, the other MIPADians that have been on the call and shared the great work that MIPAD has been doing, and Eric and Camille as well, and in as many ways as we possibly can. And so I think the best way I can share the Rwandan story is share the experience of AC Group and the growth that we've had. And so AC Group is a company that does smart transport payments, and now diversified into a lot of other business segments in the technology space. And just to give a brief background, we were founded in Rwanda in 2014, a startup with less than 4, then a team with about 4 people, with a very big vision of expanding to a number of African cities and building a solution that could be launched across a whole of transport with public transport within Kigali and Rwanda. And so basically, I mean, when we started out, we were in, so when we started out, we were in competition with a number of foreign companies, including Ericsson, which is a global tech giant. And the government of Rwanda was very deliberate about having a Rwandan company, have better access to the market, as opposed to giving it to a much more established company. And the whole thought around it was that definitely Ericsson and the other companies that applied for the same service had the technology. It could have been launched, and whatever was needed could have been done. But the whole logic was that if a Rwandan company builds it, of course, it's going to take a bit more time. But the whole understanding is that we are going to give this company a platform that in 5 years, 10 years, it will be competing with a few other, more other companies at a global scale, with a solution that is tried and tested in a particular market. In the same way Ericsson started out in Sweden, 30 years ago, with someone just giving it a chance. And so very many times we have solutions that if we only waited a little bit longer, we could give a chance to local businesses to be able to start and succeed. And 5 years, 10 years down the line, these companies are the same size as the companies that we actually had thought and had favored that are not African. And I think the government of Rwanda has been very deliberate about that. When it comes to talent pool, the government has also attracted a number of universities that have set up in Rwanda, including Carnegie Mellon, that is one of the best globally with engineering. Personally, we have benefited a lot. Our CTO is from Carnegie Mellon. Our deputy CTO is from Carnegie Mellon in our technology team. And this has helped us to be able to build competing tech solutions that we are now competing in foreign markets like Nairobi with global companies, including Google. It's things like this that are very beneficial for scaling and growth and competitiveness, not just in our respective countries, but globally. The other aspect that I think has been very important is funding. Startups face a huge challenge of funding, and the government of Rwanda has set up a business development fund that then gives guarantees to commercial banks to be able to support businesses with getting commercial loans, which is what we started with, and now setting up an $100 million innovation fund that is also going to help not just Rwandans but African businesses that are headquartered in the Kigali Innovation City. This is just a few among the very many aspects that have helped us grow in Rwanda and open in Rwanda, Cameroon, Kenya, and looking at a few other countries. Thank you.
Patrick,
all right, so thank you very much for that.
Patrick, that sounds. So first, let me just make a confession that from South Africa, we're spending a lot of time studying the rate and speed at which Rwanda has been able to move, particularly the rate and speed at which you've been able to move around the space of technology and innovation. I think people forget that it is literally less than 3 decades ago that we had the genocide in Rwanda. And I say forget glibly because even though we can never forget, I think we often think that time is more distant than it is. It's a very recent time. And in that time, I think an awful lot has been done in your country. Before I get Eric's comments, I just want to ask you very, very, very quickly, what are some of the lessons that the rest of the continent can learn about how deliberate and how fast Rwanda has moved in terms of bringing herself into being a mainstay in part of this third industrial revolution we're currently we're living through, and the fourth, which is just around the corner? What would you say are the main things that Rwanda has been able to do?
I think we'll start with the policy, innovation is always going to be ahead of public policies and regulation. And African governments need to understand that this should not hold innovation back because they do not have the policies or regulations in place. I'll give you an example of ourselves and a few other companies. At the time when we started, the regulator, the telecom, ICT and applications regulator did not have a license that covered the product that we have. And so what they decided to do was give us a non-objection and then set up a team and task force to understand our product and regulate us along the way, which helped us, kick off the product, but also work with them to set up this framework. This same license is now being used for a lot more companies right now. The same happened with Zipline, which does, blood delivery to rural areas that are remote and would have taken long for vehicles to get there. So they, Zipline set up in Rwanda, doing delivery of blood. Regulation was not in place, but they worked with the government to set up the regulation, but it did not stop the innovation from kicking off. The second, I think, is just the deliberate mindset of understanding that for businesses to succeed, there needs to be some very deliberate support from different institutions. I mean, sometimes I go to African countries and I look at entrepreneurs with very interesting products that have never been able to get an appointment with the director general of
100%.
the institution that is either regulating them or working with them. And I think, there needs to be a deliberate thought that if a foreign company has come and the Rwanda and the local company is in the same room competing for the same solution or product, your question should be, how can I support this company? And if something has succeeded in Rwanda or in Kenya or in Sierra Leone, how we do not need to replicate the same thing, which I think Vusi was talking about. how can we get that company to come to Rwanda and we scale it up so that we have, companies that are, continental and strong in different areas, other than having 6 AC groups across Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. That none of them is competitive when they go to any country outside Africa. They cannot sell the product because it's they don't have the funding structure. They do not have the scale. They do not have the skills, because you need to have built a capital base to be able to build these different components. And it is sad that even with the scale of underpopulation of Africa, we don't have any tech solution or any tech company that has cut across a quarter of the population of the continent. And this is majorly because it's just fragmented in very many ways. And I think African governments need to be very deliberate about supporting local businesses and continental businesses, and looking at solutions on the continent and trying to bring them in and just building on top of them.
Absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. I love the idea of the environment looking after itself, because it can only happen when the inhabitants of that environment believe themselves to be capable. And I think a big part of the mental rewiring and reframing we have to do all around the continent, if we're honest, actually, is we have to get ourselves as a people to believe once again that we are more capable than we have been taught, or we are more capable than we think, and then support each other that way. Eric, I wonder if I could bring you in now. Maybe if you can actually just get us started first with your comments around what are the 3 things you think Rwanda's been able to do, and then just give us a general sense and feedback from you in terms of what you think we can learn from the Rwandan story.
All right, everyone can see the results of the quick poll that we did.
Hello, Vuzi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Eric.
All right, before Eric actually gets started, I think, is the First Lady still here?
Okay, fantastic. So thank you,
Eric,
all my
before you get started, hold on for a second. Before you get started, we've been here for about an hour. Tokwe, what do you want us to do really quickly just to...
First Lady still here?
Yeah, she is.
Okay, can she turn on our camera? Let's take a group picture before we lose her. Hello, First Lady.
So everybody can just put their videos on.
Pictures. Yes, yes.
Just shake things up a bit. Yeah.
Yes. Fix the hair, fix the makeup.
Hi.
All right, they're about to go to bed.
I see you, Nina. I see that afro.
All right, both of you get in. Let's go.
First Lady, we're waiting.
All right, so I actually have the children here. They're about to go to bed, so they're joining me for a picture. Say hi. All right, group picture.
Hi, guys.
Oh, we're waiting for First Lady. She needs to put on her video.
Okay.
First Lady,
can everybody just put their videos on? Let's just get a group picture before we get back into the Rwanda conversation.
She may have stepped out.
Okay, so she stepped away?
She may have stepped away. So let's come back once we see her.
All right, cool. All right, Eric, back to you. Wait, hold on. No, the children have to go to bed. Please let them go. All right, let's go. Just a quick shot and you can all go. All right. Are we ready? Let me do. Yeah.
Hold the smile.
All right, everybody do it. One more time. Let's go. Hold it. 1, 2, 3, go. All right, I got it. All right, good night.
Good.
Good night.
So we'll come back. We'll come back to the First Lady so we can keep going.
All right, let's go. I see Grace. Hey, Grace. All right, let's go. All right, over to you, Eric. Let's talk about Rwanda.
Just before we jump to Eric quickly, Camille, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Eric, it seems there's a bit of a delay in your line. So whenever you hear us, just be cognizant that you're hearing us around what it seems is about 6 seconds after we've said what we've said. So 6 seconds from now, you're going to hear me say 6 seconds. But Eric, over to you.
All right, is it us or the connection in Kigali?
Not entirely certain. Patrick's connection seems to be working fine. It might be that Eric is perhaps in a different area where he's got a poorer connection. So I think in the benefit of time, I'm just going to jump back to you, Patrick. And when Eric, you're able to jump back, if you can, maybe just quickly send us a chat, and the panelists will acknowledge you, and then we'll bring you back into the conversation. So Patrick, here's one of the things about which I'm curious, and I would be remiss in my duties as a host of this conversation if I didn't ask what is clearly the elephant in the room. One of the challenges we face as Africans, whether we're here in the diaspora, is the branding of this word Africa. If you were to write the word on a blank canvas and paste it on a wall, on a freeway, on any particular city anywhere in the world, and asked people the sentiments and thoughts that came to mind when they first saw that word, words like technology, innovation, are just not words that are top of mind. So there is, we have to be honest with ourselves, there is a deep inbuilt underlying branding issue that Africa has, in part because of our colonial heritage, but also, if we are to be honest with ourselves as Africans, because of our inability to lead ourselves post the time of colonialism. And so here is what is for me a very deliberate question for you. And Patrick, I recognize both you and I are business people, so we are working in the mirage of this and trying to make sense of it. But here's my question for you. What has Rwanda been able to do to rebrand herself in such a short space of time? From a country where the narrative was around this one particular event, and it's almost as if you'd be forgiven for thinking there was no Rwanda pre-genocide, because that's just the story that's told. It's almost as if that's the genesis of Rwanda. Those of us who travel there know that it's much deeper and much richer. But my question for you is, what has Rwanda been able to do to rebrand herself? And then for all of us in the conversation, what are the takeaways that we can take away to really think about how we are branding ourselves, branding our continent, and branding our association with ourselves and our continent?
Sure. Thanks for that question, Vusi. And I think I'll bring it. I'll give credit to our president, and the reason as to why is I remember early in 2001 or 3, he made a very interesting speech, and that's the time when we were starting out with the monthly cleaning, which is called Umuganda. And he said we might be poor, but that does not mean we shouldn't be clean. And that's a very basic statement that makes a lot of sense. When you get to think about it, just because you do not have the wealth as a country does not mean you just need to be careless about certain things. And it brings me back to something that is in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books on the broken window effect. And just describing that if you walk into a place with graffiti and broken windows and you find a piece of valuable property on the floor, you're most likely to snatch it and take it than if you found that same piece of property on the veranda of a high-end neighborhood, very clean, looking rosy and things like that. So I think it's simple decisions like this, being able to stand tall and try to make decisions that are Rwanda-centered, as opposed to getting lots of foreign parties making decisions for us. I remember in late in the 1990s, Rwanda deliberately decided to stop buying food from the World Food Program, and everyone went up in arms. But what the president's thought process was that let's start building self-resilience and planting the food that Rwandans are going to eat. It doesn't make sense to get donations in food and just keep that mindset of always receiving. And so it's been a lot of those small decisions that at some point cause a lot of turmoil, but in the long run, they play a very big role in changing the mindset of the citizens And when you see many of these succeeding and turning into major transformations in different sectors, then you also become very confident. And the other beautiful thing is that, when you read or watch the president's speeches just after 94, just after the genocide against the Tutsi, and you listen to his speeches right now, there has been consistency. There has been very high and brutal accountability when it comes to delivering, when it comes to fighting corruption, when it comes to walking the talk. And I think that's also boosted a lot of the confidence in the direction that the leadership is giving us as a country, and creating some kind of consensus, and having a social contract between the government and its people. I mean, the level of trust between the government and the Rwandan people is incredible. During the lockdown, there was not much enforcement that needed to be done. When they say curfew is at 7, or it's a total lockdown and you're only going to get out when you're going for essential services, I mean, you could barely find cars on the road, which creates a lot of trust and confidence in one, our ability to get to the promised land, for lack of a better word, and that kind of gives you and boosts your confidence in being African and being proud and standing tall. And yeah, I hope I've answered your question in a very limited time.
And I see Eric is back with us in the conversation. Eric, I'll come to you in a moment, but I do want to make a concession, and I know that this is a closed discussion, so I'd be very keen for everybody to just think around this a bit, and maybe in the chat section we can discuss it even further. My hypothesis perhaps is that the project of a widespread democracy might be a bit too early for the continent of Africa. And I know that I say that admittedly in a continent where we've had several incidences of lifelong precedents, people who get elected and then re-elect themselves through a process of rigged electioneering. But one of the lessons I think we learn from countries, and I won't mention specific examples, is that sometimes what you need is a single person in charge who's not worried about being re-elected or being popular, who's got a particular view of how they see the country, their countrymen, and the world, and the place they want to play at, and fully recognize that the things that need to be done are not popular, but they are necessary. Because I think as Africans, we've spent the past 60 years, since the earliest countries that gained their independence, Botswana, Nigeria, Ghana, we've spent that time going through the popularity contests of leadership and not really been honest with ourselves about the deliberate project of constructing a continent. I'm cognizant
left of the session.
Yeah, I'm cognizant that we're out of time, but it would be remiss if we didn't give Eric an opportunity. Eric, you can hear us. Eric, maybe if you can just take 2 minutes and share with us your thoughts on the Rwanda story and what you think that fellow Mypadians can take away. And then Eric, once you're done, Rolake, I'll hand back over to you to chat to my good friend Mario, as well as the other panelists. Eric?
Thank you, Vusi. I'm very conscious of the time. So number one, like a very big congratulations to the whole team and to Camille for inviting me and the wonderful people on the panel. To keep it short, I think that Patrick just covered a lot about.
Eric, it's such a pity, but it seems like we're losing you. So if it's okay, maybe we can circle back to Eric at a later time. Rolake, I'm going to hand over to you now. And I see that the bare chest, hair wearing, tree climbing, gorilla fighting, Mario
business and development, and that culture is very good.
Over to you, if you would. Over to you, Rolake.
Yeah, thank you very much. I see Eric is probably still trying to say a few things. Such a pity about the sound, but like you said, hopefully we can circle back. I mean, but see, before we go over your very last point that you made, if you notice, there was sort of a deep silence in the room. I feel like it's a bit of an elephant in the room type of debate, which has been going on for a while. And it's something that I think, Camille, maybe later on in conversation, when we finish the more formal part of it, we should probably touch base, because I kind of sense that people are probably itching to say a lot about that. I know I certainly have my thoughts. So thanks for being willing to ask the really hard questions and deal with the tough issues. So we're now going to shift gears back to travel. We've been talking a lot about how my Paidians are pioneers. They're people who break ground and walk in territories that are previously uncharted. And quite literally speaking, all of these next three panelists have been in uncharted waters. We have the guy who's done 12,000 kilometers around the continent. Guys, I struggle to walk from my seat to the door of my room on a normal day. And then we have my dear sister, who I've known since I was probably about 5, Lola, who is braving the cold northern climate of Sweden. And of course, Black and abroad, such a pioneering spirit from Eric. So panelists, I'm going to start first of all with Mario Rigby to just give us his opener, tell us about his work, what is driving him, and how MyPad and the vision around it is really helping him fulfill his goals. So Mario, over to you.
Let's hope Mario is still seated. And he hasn't started to take a walk. Has Mario taken a walk yet? Okay, you're there.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking a walk. I'm right here, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate the intro. Yeah, so, you know, I finished walking the length of Africa from Cape Town to Cairo, which took me 2.5 years from throughout Eastern Africa. And I was able to learn a lot of things. And one of the things that I learned, I think, were the diversity in the cultures. And, you know, I don't think there's that many people who can see the nuances of how the tribes change from 30 kilometers apart from one tribe to the next. And when I was in Sudan, they introduced me to do a TEDx talk to talk about that. What was it like to see that? And, you know, and right after my expedition, Camille actually came up to me, and I think we were in London. Yeah, we were in London.
Right. We met in London.
And he introduced himself to me, and I was like, who's this crazy man trying to change the world? And yeah, it was really exciting from there on. You know, he invited me to be a participant at the MyPad event 2018 in New York, which was an incredible year as well. And I think the way that I believe it's also affected the way that, like the First Lady, it's really pushed me to take it to another level. And, you know, it's inspired me because I want to go back and have more things to show, more things to push the limits of human potential. I'm all about pushing the envelope of what is possible. And even this year I did, you know, due to COVID, we're not really allowed to leave the countries. I'm in Canada right now, but I still was able to find a way to push the limits of adventure, even in my own backyard. So I kayaked one of the Great Lakes of North America, Lake Ontario, which was brutal because I didn't even know how to really kayak in a proper sit-in sea kayak. The reason I do these things is because I want to show people, particularly Black people, that, you know, we need to overcome a lot of the fears that kind of keep our heads down. And I think that by pushing the extreme, by pushing the limits, you know, I hope to inspire young kids who will look up to what I do and, you know, be inspired to do their own thing.
Okay.
Great. Great words. Thank you for really just, you know, going ahead of so many of us. And honestly, when I was growing up, a lot of people around me didn't really even consider Africa as a holiday destination, right? And it's now great to see that the tide is turning. So Africans going to other African countries or other predominantly Black countries, apart from the Caribbean, maybe. The Caribbean has always had this sort of mysticism around it as a holiday destination, but it's great to hear what you're doing. So Lola, tell us about your experience. You're pretty much Swedish, right? Have you lost your Nigerian blood?
Right? Well, my Nigerian accent is as thick as ever. And so yes, no, I am very Nigerian.
Yeah. So just tell us about your work.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to be here, and I want to start with a little story, right? So when I was going to live my past life as a system architect in IT, and when I told my parents I was going to be a photographer, they said, remind people you have a degree. Remind them you have degrees, because this kind of church. Yeah, exactly, because this harkens back to the points that Stephanie made on the definition of success, right? And so knowing back then, I knew that for me to be my authentic self, to really truly lead, follow my purpose, I needed to leave whatever definitions of success that I grew up with were. And so that was kind of how I started, because I knew I've always been fascinated by culture, by the nuances of culture, trying to get beneath it. And so as a visual storyteller, that's my bit, exploring culture through foods, through tradition, through lifestyle. And then that path for many years was a very isolating one, because it wasn't a traditional route that somebody, growing up like from Nigeria would take. And so I knew that for me to keep going down this route, I was showing up as my authentic self. And that isolated me a lot, because people didn't know what to do with me. And so the reason I kind of got into this was also growing up in Nigeria. I've always been fascinated by culture. I mean, it's over 250 different tribes, 500 different languages and dialects. And so when I travel, that's kind of what draws me, is what makes us different? Why are we different? And why do we have to be different and respect it? And kind of also goes back to what Vusi said about sometimes the way a country governs itself may not be culturally the way other people might want it to be, but it makes sense. So that is kind of what underpins my work. That underpins my purpose. It's all about exploring culture and the nuances of culture and trying to communicate that as transparently and authentically as I can. So.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lola. That whole idea around the nuance of culture. I mean, there's so much diversity even within diversity. It's incredible, just the length and breadth. And I'm going to come back to you on marriage.
I have a question for Lola, please, if you don't.
Yeah, sure.
You're on
Camille,
mute.
You're on mute. Camille.
So Lola, let me just say this. I'm a big fan. I'm the president of your fan club. I love what you do. And it's incredible. You work with National Geographic. You go around the world in some very unexpected places. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. I mean, some of these tan countries, right? The question is, how do they react to you as a Black woman taking their pictures?
Yes.
How do you, being a Black woman in these places, taking pictures of other people, what is that engagement like? Because you just don't show up and take pictures and they just let you.
Exactly.
I'm asking.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Uzbekistan. So when I was there, I took so many selfies with locals because many of them hadn't seen a Black woman before. And it made sense because when you think about the government policies, they don't grant visas to Africans. The people want to interact with us. The people want to learn. But if the government is not giving us the access to come visit Uzbekistan on having an African passport, then that kind of creates, some of that.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So I actually had to use like a different passport to get in because they don't issue visas to most African countries, like tourist visas. And so what I did was, even though by the 7th day, I was tired of these selfies, but I felt like I had to be a cultural ambassador so that if I was the last Black person to see, the experience was good, as well as counteracting,
no pressure.
As well as counteracting the narrative that's being perpetuated on my behalf. So Absolutely. it was a burden to bear, but so I just wanted to kind of say that was, that's what I encounter.
So we're bringing into the class of 2020 another Black woman who is the first Black woman to visit the whole world, Jessica, right?
Yes.
It's a question I'm so waiting to engage with her to understand what was that like and how we can document that. And this is a good segue to Eric being Black and abroad. I grew up being privileged to go to school in Singapore, work in Asia, and be around Europe. So I've seen my own share of what it means to be Black, around the world. So good transition, Rolaka, if you don't mind. Let's hear from Eric about what does it mean to be Black and abroad, and what does that look like, as we in the future of travel.
Well, I'll just tell you, being Black and abroad, it means so many things. There are so many different types of Black people. We have different cultures, but we all share the same lineage. And that's the beautiful part about it. One thing that we do as an organization is we use travel to be able to bridge those gaps among the diaspora. So, we started off with, the Black travel industry in the US is a $63 billion industry. We started in 2015 because we saw that there was this lack of representation in travel imagery, mainstream travel imagery to be particular. In that, we wanted to shift the Google results. So we wanted to see feedback from travelers like ourselves, because a lot of this feedback or reviews that we would see, we couldn't find ourselves in the review, in the Google results. Basically, we were able to do that, and we were able to do it successfully. And once we've met that mission, we wanted to take it a step further. And Lola mentioned something earlier about narratives. We wanted to shift the African narrative, the packaging of the continent, to show people that Africa is not what it's been marketed to be for generations, for obvious reasons. As a Black man, I can imagine the success of the colonists by keeping us away from the continent with this packaged marketing ploy that they've created for so long. So last year, both my business partner and I, we decided to partner with a company out of Canada in Toronto, is a marketing agency, to shift this narrative. And we created this Go Back to Africa campaign, which basically integrated AI as well as it used social listening devices to count how many times the term Go Back to Africa has been used in derogatory ways on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. So we had a social listening device pick that up, and we discovered that between 4,500 and 5,000 times a month, that derogatory racist impression, Go Back to Africa, was just so freely used. But this was back last year, before all the chaos that's happened right now with Black Lives Matter and the whole Republican Party. So I'm sure it spiked a lot heavier. But what we did was we took this and we said, how can we subvert the meaning of that? How can we subvert it and show that it is in fact an honor to go back to Africa, and we would love to do it and show you the amazing time that we had once we got there. So literally, the hashtag in Instagram, in Facebook, and Google, you'll see these beautiful images of Black people enjoying themselves on the African continent. Furthermore, we have a website, which is gobacktoafrica.com, which showcases these amazing people just showing out. Like, we literally, Black people, we say in the US, you can't outdo Black people. So we love to outdo ourselves in this travel industry. And one of the ways that we're doing that is by upping ourselves on the amazing times that we're having in Africa. Unfortunately, COVID kind of slowed it down a little bit because obviously the borders are closed. But listen, let me tell you, as soon as those borders open back up, me and my business partner and the whole Black and Abroad family, we're going to be in every African country that we can get to that allows us in. So
we definitely.
And Camille, earlier you mentioned something about Sierra Leone. I would be honored to put together a MePad trip to Sierra Leone if we can get that going.
All right. I mean, it's amazing you said that, because the First Lady's back.
Yes.
And we wanted to take a group picture with you, First Lady.
We miss you, First Lady. Want to take a picture?
So your
Camille,
timing was good.
Just before we do, it's worth mentioning that Eric actually won an award for that campaign, right? I
Yes,
believe the Go Back to Africa
CNN
campaign.
did a piece on
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephanie did a
Well
piece
done.
on it.
We won the Grand Prix award in Cannes, along with
Yeah.
3 other awards in the Cannes Festival of Creativity, and along with
Absolutely.
a long list of other awards. So,
And because of my path, we were able to connect you with CNN, and there was a piece done on you on CNN, and that's what we need to collectively do. I mean, when the idea of this panel came together was, you know, when I heard Mario talk about, you know, during the pandemic, the one person I always wondered how he was coping was Mario, because you people, the 3 of you, I can't imagine, you know, you are travelers, you move everywhere, and all of a sudden you were contained in one location. How have you survived? You know what, that was what triggered us putting this together, right? So a big thank you to you and all the perspective you shared. Looking forward to, you know, possibilities we can create together, and let's travel around the world very quickly again with a picture, with a group picture from everyone, and then we'll do a regional call.
Turn on your videos. Turn on your videos.
So everybody turn their videos on, please.
Guys, real quick. First lady's back. Let's take a picture. A couple of people. Patrick, okay, good. Oh, fantastic. I think we got.
We have 100%.
All right, finally.
Is Boosie there?
Go ahead.
Oh, Yemi's here. Good to see you. All right, are we ready? 1,
ready.
2,
Take
everybody
ready
look at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Look at your camera right now. Good. Did you see the flash? All right, love you guys. I love the peace sign. All right, so back to you, Steph. Stephanie's back. I was just saying that, Stephanie, you did a piece on Eric, Black and Abroad. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
and
also,
Eric,
before we go, Eric
yeah,
did put the First Lady on did make a request to the First Lady. So we'd like to hear from the First Lady, because he requested to be able to come to Sierra Leone, right? So
let's do a trip, a packet trip. So that what they do is they do a packet trip to Africa, to Sierra Leone. Yeah. Freetown. I want to go back to Freetown.
Eric, I mean, whenever you're ready to come, Camille know how to reach me. Just let me know, and we'll work something out.
Absolutely, I will definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Okay, Rolake, over to you and Vusi.
I think it's over to Vusi, actually, this section. Thanks, guys, on the travel front. You know, the hashtag traveling while Black has actually been around for quite a while. And I'm sure we all have anecdotes about our journey. And I just thought I would share one. The very first time I went to China, I was really surprised that even somewhere like China, where you have certain provinces that have large swaths of African communities, that I was still being asked for pictures, right? I was with a cohort of fellow MBA students, and they were all surprised that there were random people coming up to me on the street to take selfies. And, you know, I've always been a firm believer that curiosity is flattery, and just that penchant for cultural exploration, I think we should embrace it and not always see everything as politically incorrect. So I really appreciated that experience, because it just made me realize that some people are just not as exposed, and it's no fault of theirs really, but we do all have a responsibility to embrace differences wherever we find ourselves. I just thought I would mention that as a really eye-opening experience that I had on my first visit to Shanghai.
Very
so
good.
Over
Thanks
to you,
for sharing.
Vicky. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, Vusi, you're on mute. You're on mute. I think we have the authors and behind the deal. Is that what we're?
That's what we're doing next.
Okay, good. And
So
let me give a big shout out to Busaso Moyo from Zimbabwe. Big shout out to you, my friend. I see Brazil. I see Nigeria. Yemi, thanks for joining. Bolahan, thank you. Where are you? Chicago, Lagos, where are you? Tanya Tome is here.
Chicago.
Thank you for joining. All right. Thank you all. Good to see you, Busaso.
Thank you, Camille.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Camille.
Busis, are you in?
Greetings.
Are you in?
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah. Are you in Zimbabwe right now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, which is in the south. Yebo.
You know, my grandmother is Ndebele, and my grandmother's family actually has its roots, Bulawayo. That's where I get the big, bulky, heavy bone structure, you know? That's why the ladies love that.
I see you. I see you. I see you. We ran away from the South about 200 years ago, and we settled in the south of Zimbabwe. So yeah.
For those of us in the conversation who are not aware of this, Zimbabwe has been going through a difficult time for a while. And there's been ebbs and flows, isn't it, Bosisa? And you and I don't need to have a political conversation, but it seems that we're back at the ebb again. I see that the macroeconomic picture is looking poor again. Migration is becoming a problem again. The currency is under pressure again. And in the latest incidents, there's been incidences around the freedom of journalists and journalism, the ability for the press to report anything that they might want to report on. You don't have to comment on that, but I wanted to, for those of us in the conversation who are not aware, to make this, which is the point in every single part of our existence all around the world, Blackness and Africanness is a struggle. And so it's really, really important for you and I to connect to each other and recognize those struggles and recognize that the success of one is the success of all, because you give other people hope when they see people that look like themselves occupy spaces that are so incredible. I mean, Eric, I just think that whole campaign about going back to Africa, that's so cool, man. That's so cool. I'm jealous I didn't think of it. Like, that's definitely something you should have thought about. Why didn't you think? That's really, really cool. So what we're going to do now is have a conversation with those of us in the room who are authors. And I'm busy at the moment with my 4th book, but recognize all too well that literature and the ability for us to write down thoughts, ideas, concepts, contributions has been one of the things that has been robbed from our people for a really, really long time. And it's really important that we leave an imprint of who we are for future generations. Our imaginations, our thoughts, our dreams, our ideas, and even our achievements. And so what I wanted to do was to make this an open conversation to any amongst us who are authors. And I want to start by asking first the question, those of us here who've written books, here is my first question. And the question is this: what did you feel was missing in the world of literature that you felt you needed to make a contribution? And I will make that an open question. Anybody who would like to answer it, who's an author, please, if you can do this with your hand. Lola, let's let you go first.
Yes. So I have one of my books I wrote was called Due Not, and it's about 20 years of traveling and my experiences and stories and snapshots. And what I wanted to share with that book was what it was like to travel through an African lens as a professional travel writer and photographer. Because if we don't diversify the storytellers, then the stories will always be from a certain lens, you know? And so I always use this example, like if a friend of mine came from like, I don't know, Portugal and said, oh, I went to this village and they just invited me in, and the guy, I had dinner with the families, and then I go to the same village and the guy shuns me. When I'm telling the story about that place, I need to share both stories, that maybe the person is actually quite prejudiced. It might have been a nice, warm, inviting farmer to you because you're white. And so it's very important to diversify the storytellers, because then we come back with a more nuanced, more complete picture of a place that shows this is how the place really, truly moves around the different kinds of places, people that come through. So I think for me, that was what I wanted to share with that book, a collection of travel stories. So
thank you. Thank you.
Vusi, can I just acknowledge the authors in the room? There is Tanya Tome. She's an author. And Ibiana is also an author. And Ernesto from Brazil. He was in class of 2019. Something interesting I want to point out. 2019, we were in New York together. He was at Princeton. He's a nuclear physicist at Princeton University. And one of the things he wants to do is Black intellectual books, to translate them to Portuguese. Because what has happened is, because of the divide and conquer that exists with people of African descent, language is a barrier. So you find that books from Black intellectuals that Afro-Brazilians haven't read, right? Or Spanish descendants haven't read. So I just wanted to put that out there, that's Vusi, something I'd love to work with him on, how to translate a lot of our Black intellectual books across languages so that we can mobilize more people of African descent for the mission. So Ernesto, do you wanna speak on that really quickly?
Yeah, I think that's an idea I've been thinking about for a while. And I was mostly inspired actually by some of the books I read from Ta-Nehisi Coates. And
Some
I
of you are
thought
familiar with him.
it would be good to have some of his writings translated to Portuguese. And so I've been in contact with through Camille with some of his agents to try to get some of his books translated to Portuguese. And I would be very happy to assist any of you to do the same here with your writings. And I'm just about to become a writer myself as well. Like 2 days ago, I've just submitted my first manuscript to an editor for a big publishing house, and I'm waiting for a reply. But I'm convinced that even if I get a no for an answer, I would just go through a different route, perhaps self-publishing or publishing in a different language.
And why is Brazil important? It's a massive market.
It is a market, and also, I mean, you probably know that Brazil is the second biggest African descendant country, right? With I think just second to Nigeria.
Over 100 million people. Lucy, you hear that? It's a massive market.
And people crave.
It's important that we stress that because it's a good point to bring up. Why is Brazil important? Brazil is the largest, the second largest, has the second largest population of Black people
on the planet.
No.
Exactly. And Brazil and Black Brazilians, they crave for reconnecting with Africa. This is something that you feel when you talk with people from Brazil. And I mean, I have my personal story is that my father, he is from Africa. He's from Guinea-Bissau himself. And he came to Brazil right after the independence in the late 70s. And then he spent the last 30-something years in Brazil, and he didn't return to his country. And he met my mother here, my sister and I, we were born here. Then my parents, they got divorced. And my father, he was distant. And we didn't have this connection with Africa or with our, family from Guinea-Bissau. And 10 years ago, I made a trip to meet my grandparents and to meet some of my family. And it was my first time in the African continent. And I had a travel diary and I wrote notes. And so during the pandemic, I decided to convert these notes into a book. So that's the story I would like to tell. And
the pandemic has turned a lot of people into authors.
And I think this will probably, add value to this conversation about people in Brazil that want to connect with Africa. And I have this very sort of unique story to tell because we have Black Brazilians, all descendants from people who were taken from Africa many, many generations ago. And they somehow lost this connection. Whereas in my case, my father, he himself was African, and we lost the connection with Africa, but I was trying to rebuild this connection, and I was somehow able to do it because my grandparents were still alive. I have brothers and sisters in Africa, uncles, cousins, and so it was a unique opportunity to reconnect. And so I would like to tell the
let me connect you right now. Now let's give it to Tanya Tome, who's from Mozambique, who's also Portuguese speaking. So I want you to just speak some Portuguese to each other. I mean, that would be great. Introduce her. You familiar? She's an author too. You should get her book. Nina, Nina, country director Brazil. We need to get Tanya's book.
We wanted to talk in Portuguese. We wanted to introduce Tanya Tomé. Tanya is a really, really important speaker. You know the Tanya background, but nowadays Tanya is a reference in Brazil. This is the opportunity the Portuguese language opened the doors. If we speak English in Brazil, we don't have it. I think so 10% of population is speaking English. It's really few. And if you look at the Black population, we don't speak English here, okay? And when we have opportunity to talk the same language, we have our interchange, how the Tanya here in Brazil doing a lot of panels. It's a really important to speak for us. This reference to have a women, Black women from Africa.
Yeah, she's making money in Brazil.
Selling books and being in the top of the list. Please, Tanya, talk with us, please.
Hello, guys. How are you, Camille? How are you, everyone? Nina, I love you, you know. I'm glad to be part of my audience and to be with you guys. Amazing. This week have been amazing. So congratulations. As an author, I truly believe that we really need leaders. African leaders, Black leaders, impacting lives and becoming the examples, the true examples. So I have 5 books. I have from poetry, novels, self-help books. So I'm an economist by profession. I used to be a banker. So I truly believe that through writing, we can engage people, we can inspire people. And one of the things that I truly do with my recently book, Success Energy, Activate Your Energy and Activate Your Success, is empowering people, understanding that motivation is in the center of everything. And we are missing and lack of self-esteem and confidence. And we truly need that to impact people and to show that even if we are Black, we can impact, we can do the difference that we need. So one of the things that I truly believe that is missing is this self-esteem, that confidence, that capacity to understand that we are able, we can change, we can do things. And one of the things that we miss, in fact, in Africa is producing. And many people don't do because they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they deserve success. So I have been empowering many different people in many different countries. Brazil is one of them. Portugal, Rwanda, Sierra Leone. I was in Sierra Leone, in fact, this year. It was my last country in March. And I truly believe that we need that, Vusi. We need leaders in leadership positions. And to do that, we have to empower people. And I have something that is very different in my book. It's envy test. Envy test, yeah, envy test. And we have to do detox of our mind, because we have to decolonize our mindset, our minds, and try to begin from an early beginning that can move us forward.
I like that. Decolonize our minds. Very good. All right, so we have one more author, and we can move on to the next segment and go around the world regionally. Let's hear from everyone. Ibiane just launched her book. I also hear that I know Abiola Champ, class of 2020. You're an author. Aderonke, you're also an author. We did a quick poll to see who wants to be an author. It looks like we all have something to say, right? So MyPad needs to launch an arm. Ernesto, right? We need to launch a publishing arm. So I'm looking to you to definitely do that. Big shout out to Regina Baptiste.
We need to connect
Jean-Baptiste.
Ernesto. Hey, Camille, we need to connect Ernesto, Tanya, and all the authors, because this is an opportunity for authors to gain access to the second largest market, right?
Absolutely.
So we need to. So Tanya,
got it.
That's on
Tanya,
you.
where can we get your book? Where can we buy your books?
Amazon. Amazon. You can get the Amazon, Apple Store as well. Because I have many different books in English, in Spanish, in Portuguese. I have to start talking to Vusi to have something in Zulu.
Absolutely. There you go. That's right. All right. So Ibiane was here, but I'm not sure where she's gone, but I believe she's also an author. And when I say author Lima from Brazil, just giving you a shout out. He's one of our honorees 2020. He's running a telehealth platform for Black health in Brazil. So well done. So Vusi and Roller, what's the next item on the? What's the next thing? Sorry. So we're done with the authors. I see Lena sipping her wine. I love it. I love it. Living life.
This is Saturday
There you
night.
go. There
party
you go.
time.
Cheers, Eric. There you go.
But it's still
Absolutely.
Vusi. I think it's still Vusi on the deals, right?
Okay, deals. Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
so deals,
So I
the
don't know where
deal
Vusi is
makers.
gone. Vusi, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, something went wrong with my my connection, my camera.
Nah, he's doing a deal back there. It's a backdoor deal. He doesn't want us to see it. We are two hours in, and we really booked 2 hours for this. So anything after this is really just you being gracious with your time to be with us. But this has been truly an awesome time. Just reconnecting with you, seeing everybody again, eager to create new possibilities. I can't wait for you all to meet the new class of 2020. It's remarkable what we've done this year with the list, and we've pivoted into the over 40, because what we did with the research, we called it the Global Reckoning Edition. We looked at the largest, most iconic, most influential institutions in the world to see the presence of Black people. And many of them who are at that level, at the highest levels in the world of decision making, are obviously over 40. But it was very interesting to see the results. I mean, the research team is on here. Jonathan and the team are here. We knew it was bad going in, but people, it is truly a moment of reckoning to realize that we are less than 5% in the decision-making tables in the world. It is a wake-up call. This is really why we march, right? The companies that you expected, where we spend most of our money as Black people, they don't have us on the board or senior management. So we need to be more deliberate in what we're asking for and stop settling for crumbs. You know, Black Lives Matters and t-shirts is not what we want anymore. And the other thought that is, when you see this list and the people in that list see each other, when you're Black and or African at that level, the isolation is real, right, Vusi? The isolation is real. But when they look at it, I truly hope they will be able to see that they're not alone, and it starts to build a community to consolidate our powers, because we are in some very strategic places, but we don't even know each other exist in high positions and in different places around the world. So I really look forward to us sharing the new, MyPad Global Reckoning Edition, tomorrow's ceremony. So feel free to jump in with us tomorrow night. So that's just a thought I wanted to get out there.
If I can, I think one of the things that's jumping out at me here is, I think there is an opportunity for us to share these kind of insights, and Tope, I'm talking to you here, these kind of insights, this research that MyPadians are generating. So I'm a patron of a research firm here in South Africa, Nigeria, Kenya. We do a lot of work that I think other MyPadians here might find value in reading. Yeah. Camille, I think there is a real platform and an opportunity for you to create a separate WhatsApp group, one that focuses purely on research and insights, so that when Eric does a piece about the word "go back to Africa," and he takes that and he converts it into either a documentary or takes it and converts it into a piece of literature. I have an ecosystem of 4 million followers on social media across the platforms. I'm the most followed African person in Africa on LinkedIn. I don't even know about the work that you're doing. And so I think there's an incredible opportunity for us to tap in, pick that up and go, let me blow this up, because this is actually a conversation other people need to be a part of. But I think what we need to do is to separate it from the other WhatsApp groups, so that it's not which year specific, but it purely is about, this is the stuff we need to know. So what's the stuff we actually need to know? Like, yo, this bit of research just published, it affects us as Africans and people of African descent. You guys definitely need to go to read this so you understand what's happening in the rest of the world. And Camille, I wonder if that's something you might consider.
I mean, it's not often I actually get asked to create another WhatsApp group. I'm actually told not to create a WhatsApp group. So, I mean, that brings me joy just hearing you say that. So definitely, yeah, you're all laughing because you know that's what I do, right? In a New York Minute. So yes, I'm with you on that in terms of really crunching the data and what we need to know, and just being more intentional and more tactful about the things. We need stealth, we need intel, We need our own counterintelligence agencies, and that's what that speaks to.
100%.
So I love it. I love it.
Let me just very quickly, and then we're going to check deals very quickly, but I just want to make this point. So as a young entrepreneur whose business we invested in some time ago, and I mentor this particular young lady, and she had a particular problem with a regulator. So she runs a fintech company, and she has an RSL, which is a regulatory sandbox license operating out of Mauritius. And her fintech company then penetrated one of the local countries in the continent, in Zambia. And she started having issues with the regulator. And it was literally two bulls going at each other the whole time. And so I chair the board, I'm getting copied in the emails and the conversations. And so I said to her what I think might help us in framing what would be this next WhatsApp group. I said, anytime people approach you with emotion, recognize that they lack the intellect and logic to approach you. So if you respond to an emotional confrontation with emotion, all that happens is there is an escalation, but there's no resolution. So what we actually need, and this is a big part of where we find ourselves as a people, we're great on emotion. We move on emotion. We act, we move, we protest, we're on the streets, but there's a place where we get stuck. So now we protested, we're on the streets, we're sitting around the table, but then we're stuck there. And I think we get stuck there because we're simply lacking the evidence, the intel, the insights, the research, the data. Because when you get around the table, if you throw emotion at it, power doesn't know how to respond to emotion. So what power does is it suspends you. It goes, well, you're just another loud black person. Y'all have got to deal with that because y'all very loud like that, right? And so if we don't have the ability to approach these issues in a calm, circumspect, real scientific way, we're just not going to advance. And it doesn't matter which area of the advancement kaleidoscope we're trying to achieve. So for me, that's kind of where that comes from, and I think it might help us.
Yeah, I think to jump in, Vusi, I think you make a very interesting point, and I think I want to buttress that. I mean, Camila and I occasionally will get asked about how to get access to people within the network, because you folks are doing amazing work. You'd be shocked. I mean, Priscilla does global human rights around the world, right? And I know there are other people who do similar work. There's got to be that collaborative effort. It's got to be intentional. We cannot sit back anymore and just say, oh, I don't want to bother someone by approaching. This is the time to take charge. It's important that people speak up, and with that mindset of we need to collaborate, because, Eric is doing stuff. I'm going to talk to you later after this.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of things we're doing that fits in line with what you're doing. So we can no longer work in silos. We need to.
In silos. Silos we need to break those barriers. And talk about, the reason why we met many, many years ago, and I fell in love with what you do, is data. What I hear Vusi saying is that power doesn't respond to emotion. We need to come with hard data, like the research that we did for Global Reckoning. When you see that list, I mean, more importantly, not the people who made the list, the people who are not on the list. Why are we not at the decision-making tables of some of these biggest organizations in the world? What's going on, right? So that's what I really hear Vusi saying is that we need to counter what's going on with us right now with valid information, visual representation of what the reality is. And that's what I hope that 2020 actually does.
And one more thing
okay.
Before we move on. It's important, and I want to point this out for my colleagues in the US especially, is when you do have conversations with whether it's something as simple as customer service, you need to ask them, do you have Black leadership? Because they record those conversations and they review it on an annual basis, on a monthly basis. And it's something as simple as ask that question during that conversation. They probably say they don't know. That's fine. But your question has been registered. The more people that ask that question, they will need to react to it.
Right. So that's what we ultimately hope that this does, is that we need to now get Black consumers all over the world. We need to start asking these questions and being more intentional about it, because this is why we march. When I look at the results of what we did, it's incredible where we're not and where we should be. So with that said, I mean, tomorrow is recognition dinner, and I just wanted to use this opportunity to talk about a few highlights of, what that looks like. And because you're here, I'm going to actually use this opportunity just to make you feel good and actually show you the list. How does that feel? Who wants to see the list? Who wants to see what we actually did? I'm going to give you the first view into what the Global Reckoning edition actually looks like. So Vusi, no, please don't, no screenshots, please.
No,
so let's reveal this, you know, to the world together starting Monday. So if
I don't want to be a party pooper, but we're also live on Facebook and on Twitter. Okay, so that means
we are. Oh, okay. So I can't. Okay.
Why did I say that? Why did I say that?
No, that's good. That's good. Thanks for that. I almost showed the whole world the list before time. But actually, you know what? Why not? Why not? It's
It's Saturday
to be here.
Paying attention.
Why not? So let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, just because we're here, I think I just would love for you to just take a quick look at what I was talking about in terms of Jonathan. Are you here?
Yes, Camille, I'm here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Jonathan was on the research team, one of the researchers that worked on this. So this is the cover. Can everybody please see my screen? What do you see? Everybody sees the cover. So this is what 2020. So this is I call this privilege access now. You can actually see what happened this year. This is a cover of the Global Reckoning edition, and the theme is Representation Matters. And again, what we did was to look at the largest, most influential, and most iconic brands in the world to see where we are. All right, and I'm just going to take on a show through it really quickly. My message, my roots in Africa, and of course, we looked at the four corners of MyPad, right, around the world. So global politics and governance, business and entrepreneurship, media, culture, and humanitarian. And of course, this article is from the United Nations, which is probably the leading agency that's working on, global equality and to reduce the inequalities that we have in the world. So to get to the list, the first category we looked at was on global politics and governance. And what we did was to look at the institutions that really govern the, regionally and globally. And just an interesting point to note, this is the highest levels. Remember what I said, this is the highest levels of governments around the world. And we found some gems. Did you know that the Minister of Justice in Portugal is a Black woman, right? The head of FIFA is a Black woman. Canada, on the Canadian cabinet, has only one Black person. Okay, so just note that. America also has only one Black person, Ben Carson, who really we can say doesn't count, right? In France, in the UK, it's zero. There was no one in the UK. So just listen to this. No one in the ruling party in the United Kingdom, right, is at the highest levels. So we looked at governments at the highest levels around the world, and you found that we are not there. So my hope is that these people in their positions today feel very isolated and alone. And the hope is that when they see this list, when it comes out, they actually start to see that they're not alone and start to build a coalition of our voices. Now we're going to global businesses, major corporations in the continent and in the world, and Bank of England, of all the biggest banks that were the biggest beneficiary of slavery, only Bank of England has one person on there. Lloyd's, all of them have no Black representation on their boards. And
HSBC, Royal Bank of Scotland, all of them.
All of them. None of them had any representation of our people, and they were the biggest beneficiaries of slavery, right? Coca-Cola. When you look at Coca-Cola, ExxonMobil, Intel, Goldman Sachs, there's only two. You can see the two of them on here. Johnson & Johnson. We have 3 Black CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. 3 Black CEOs, right? And Standard Bank, I must say this, Vusi. So we looked at Standard Bank, and I hope Elon Musk is considered South African, right? So is that fair? Or we get in trouble for that? And Standard Bank, right? The biggest institutions in the world, right? So this is what we did. Now in global media and entertainment, you can see some of these Vogue. Let me just point out Vogue in British Vogue, right? Had the publisher and the editor-in-chief are actually of African descent. Facebook didn't make the list. Jonathan, the Facebook or the big majors make the list?
Facebook, Amazon, even media companies like the Times, Fortune, they had none.
Right. That's the other point we need to point out. Did you know that Times, Forbes, and Fortune do not have any person of African descent on their board? Zero on senior management. Did you know that? That was another shocker too, right? So the people who made the list, I think for me is not just the people who made the list, is the people who didn't make the list, right? That really is the shocker, for us. So this is what the list kind of looks like, and it's a combination of both the over 40, the under 40, and some of our special editions in here. But it's remarkable for me, the messaging is not the people who made the list, but the absence of the ones who didn't, and why we need to raise our voices to the world to say this is why we march. So that's me. Vusi, I think I'm going to hand over to you and Rolake to shut it down.
Good.
We're at 10:30.
Oh, good.
So,
it looks like Rolake, it looks like we're out of time. But what I did want to do was just very quickly try and see and maybe try and domicile us in a conversation about transaction and deal making, because I think one of the opportunities we miss as a group of people who are connected, clear we are like in mind. And I'd like to think perhaps share even a sense of values, is how far do we take that and how do we actualize that in the real world, right? So where does that actually go? How do we make that meaningful? So Camille, you and I had a conversation towards the end of last year, and for the benefit of the people in the rest of the conversation, I run a venture firm in Africa. And this year we won the best impact investment firm in Africa, right? So it's a global award and it's like a big, big deal. And I also run a private equity firm that does transactions in what's called MENA, Middle East and North Africa, based out of Dubai. So, but for our venture firm, the challenge I'd always had was that we had a very narrow local focus. So we were purely doing transactions in South Africa. And of course, you're only going to do transactions in South Africa because Africa is 54, now 55 countries with a splitting of the Sudan. There are parts of this continent where the cultural nuances are so tough that I feel like I'm a stranger in New York. And at the end of the day, building businesses across these divides is very difficult. And what I was doing, and I share this as a testament because I'd like to hear other stories, it only dawned on me toward the end of last year that I realized the mistake I was making was the presumption that the only way to expand the business and build a business was if I expanded the business and I built the business. So the idea that I had to go to a particular country and start from scratch. And so we spent much of 2020 getting into the rest of the continent actually by just buying businesses or acquiring, a majority stakes in similar businesses like ours around the continent. So we've just announced a transaction we've done in Tanzania. I've told you guys now we haven't made it public yet. The transaction we've done in Rwanda. I've got Ghana, Nigeria pending. Namibia is already on term sheet stage. And the idea and the philosophy is very simple. Find like-minded people doing similar work whose competencies can be amplified, standardized, and scale, right? And so if you do that, then there is a much bigger opportunity to impact the broad community of what the continent actually needs. And I say this with one very final thought, and Rolake, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. The continent of Africa, for those of us who care to know, has got big problems that are deeply embedded. So we're not going to solve it with small-minded thinking in our own little corners. It's just not going to work. Right? You can't have a continent of 1.2 billion people and think a business that services 50 million people makes an impact. We need to think far bigger, far greater, and far more expanded, right? And so I think the platform's there. So what I'm really keen to hear from the rest of us in the conversation is those of us who've been looking for a platform to transact and do business, and those of us who have in the rest of the continent, and maybe even get a sense of where you might want to be assisted and how you can be assisted. Because I think that really helps us domicile ourselves in action items, stuff we can actually do. So it's yo, I'm trying to unlock a relationship with somebody in media in South Africa because I've got a product here. I'm sitting in West Africa, but if I could get this product into media in South Africa and get some decent distribution, it might help me give my product some more runway, right? So for me, that's really the nub of the conversation I'd like to have now. And I'm keen to take any conversation or any hand, anybody who would like to say something.
Yeah, great stuff, Vusi. And I just wanted to add 2 additional dimensions that are related. The first one is, I recall, at the height of the George Floyd movement in the US and Black Lives Matter this year, there was a lot of talk about the African-American community patronizing African-American businesses in key sectors. But there was an issue of numbers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Seems we've lost her lucky there. We've just lost her.
I think I see my pad really playing the role of a curator of sorts.
Yeah.
That will enable those who have the sources of capital, right, to put in the businesses that are looking for capital. And then over and beyond that is this concept of bankability. Do we have enough bankable opportunities across the African continent? Because the truth is, from a profit perspective, there's really no difference between an African investor and an investor from outside Africa. If you're a businessman, you're a businessman. You want profit, but you also want to impact the bottom line, double impact. If we can bring social impact as well as profitability into the game, then it makes business sense. So I really see my pad helping to drive this conversation, maybe acting as a curator of sorts on some sort of platform, maybe not necessarily another WhatsApp group, but this is something I think we need to brainstorm around and lock heads on. So I just thought I would drop that. And again, like Vusi, I would be keen on hearing what other people are saying.
Well,
so Vusi, Eric, let me just say this to Vusi real quick. Vusi, look, you have the keys to the supercar, so please come drive it, come test ride it. Let's do it. I mean, over the last 3 years, we've built such an amazing database of the people we need. Come do something else with it. This is what I know how to do, right? But you are into the finance, you know how that works. So come, let's take the keys of the supercar, drive it. Eric, you wanted to say?
Well, no, I want to interject and say that to piggyback and say that there's, well, as of I think July of this year, actually August, 41% of small Black businesses have had to shutter because of COVID and the impact.
COVID.
Right. And this is in the U.S. So myself and my business partner, we're currently working on a way to highlight these disparaging situations and patronize the businesses that are left. So I will be tapping into the MePad network to give you guys a heads up. We're actually in talks. We're in talks with the Canadian agency that we used for the Go Back to Africa campaign to do this same thing over and over again. And we're looking at a launch of February 2021, which is Black History Month. So very soon we'll be reaching out to you guys to get some support on that, because that's something that we don't have. We're losing.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, we're losing them.
That's why too much. I mean, the impact of COVID. I mean, it set us back in even building. Remember that we were even trying to build collective wealth and Black ownership. Now COVID has thrown us even way off course. So we need to regroup, and hopefully we regroup better. So let's do it together. The collective is the goal.
If I may jump in based on what.
Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Wuzi, nice to meet you here. Right, you've been on fire all the way. If I may jump in based on what you're talking about, we are working on a project which is educational and executive from early on in the year, and the idea was to even make it Pan-African, right? But 2 things that will be responsible for the success is having a Pan-African media, which is one media outfit that can spread across, or collaborations with regional media, and as well as some of the executive schools. So we've been talking about this for a while, and we were rethinking it. That okay, maybe we should just make this limited to our region. But from what you're talking about, having this cross-regional, pan-African
Absolutely,
collaboration
Pan-African, global, absolutely.
in doing this,
This is
I
it.
think this is just way to go. And you know, I've been listening to, and if I may say this as well, Camille, I've been listening all day long and everything, and I'm just hearing call to action.
Thank you so much.
Abiel, this is call to action. This is what you're supposed to be doing. This is where
Yeah.
you're supposed to be. This are the right people to work with. This is how to expand everything that we're doing in Africa to make sure that it has the social impact and, of course, the profitability bit as well.
Absolutely. You're class of 2020. I mean, I can give it away now. I mean, you've shown yourself over and above the work that you're doing, and this is the network. That's why we have to think globally and make local impact. And that's what this network is about. And I believe, you know, 5 years, 10 years from now, many of us are going to be at the helm of leadership and decision making. So let's begin now. That's why I'm not in a hurry. You build something good over time. So those who come with us now and those who are not here, they will come along. But let's stay the cause and stay committed to the journey.
Hey, Camille, can I jump in on that?
Absolutely. Yes, Walla.
Sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened earlier. I was trying to introduce myself and I couldn't be brought in, but New York is in the house. And by way of Sudan, of course, got to represent. And, you know,
Birthright Africa.
Birthright Africa, MyPad 2018, that's Momentum right. Graduate. I have to shout out, you know, it's our 5-year anniversary. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Birthright Africa. We are committed to providing a free educational trip to Africa for every youth and young adult of African descent in the US to start, because we've already gotten interest from Canada, the UK. So Vusi, when you talk about going big, and you sat on a panel with my co-founder Diallo, who was blown away by you too.
Diallo Shabazz, I love him.
Yeah, we're pulling you guys in, Vusi, into something with Birthright, because that was just amazing. But it's about going big. Like, we're committed to every young person, because it starts with the exposure. You can't know Africa unless you visit Africa. We have over 23,000 young people registered with minimal marketing. There's a demand for this by the young people. So Camille, what you're doing is you're passing the baton to me to have access to this MyPad network to then ensure these young people continue to be the future MyPad.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a pipeline.
Yeah, it's a pipeline. And you know, we're changing the diaspora for the future generation of the diaspora.
Absolutely.
That is part of the continent's change, right? Like, the continent itself can't really improve until the diaspora.
It's a collective. It has to be a collective journey.
I'm so happy to see that. And you know, every single one of our alumni wants to go back to the continent multiple times after they visited one time. So it's happening. Can see themselves living and working on the continent.
So quick question for you, Walla, quick question for you though.
Yeah.
So what, and I want a quick response. What has been your challenge with Birthright in terms of the visas and in terms of travel logistics? And can you scale that concept beyond New York? I believe you're only in New York at the moment, right?
Oh yeah, no, we already have a national scale plan that includes the education system. So we partner with high schools, colleges, and community-based organizations, and they can be anywhere in the country. So the registrants, the education partners are anywhere in the country. As far as travel ease, once we get to travel, that is definitely where MyPad comes in. Also, MyPad comes in because we highlight leaders and entrepreneurs on the continent. We want y'all to come and speak to the young people to show them what the real Africa
what actually looks like.
Yeah, right. So they understand this can be part of my career and life trajectory. Because of COVID, we've had to pivot and go virtual. But what that is doing now is giving access to everyone. So we don't even have to wait to get to you physically. Everyone can be exposed to Birthright Africa. We're going to do it virtually with virtual reality as well. I mean, it's
those who do not know about Birthright Africa, it's a concept where every Jewish child gets to go to Israel, right? It's fully paid for. Yeah. And what stops us from doing that with people of African descent all over the world to really give them an opportunity to, I want Mark to speak, actually, Mark from Haiti. I want you to actually speak about you know, the work that you do. I know Haiti, for us today, we were told that Haiti was yesterday at the opening ceremony, you know, that Haiti was the first Black republic. I mean, the true leaders of the revolution. And it's important, you know, that you're here. You've been consistent in the work that you're doing. How does that play into what support do you need out there? Well, what's going on there?
Hey everyone. I mean, I've been waiting for my time to just kind of go on.
Sorry, yeah.
Quite understand the schedule. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Mark. I'm actually a former World Bank and former IDB, but decided to quit my job 3 years ago because I believe in building more concrete work on the ground. So I started by building a hub. I'm actually standing in it right now, being recognized by the government of Haiti as one of the most active young people in business in Haiti. Been opening the world. We're part of the Haiti Tech Summit, which actually is happening next week. We're bringing people. Kanye West was in Haiti actually just last week.
Yeah.
So the power of the history of this country, the first Black republic, has actually been bringing attention around the world, but not enough, right? With the whole Black Lives Matter movement going on, I was like, this is the perfect timing for Haiti to be able to stand. But to do that, we need partnership. And that's why I'm actually extremely proud of the work Camille is doing and opening doors and meeting people like Vusi here. And all of you been tweeting about this event a lot because I really want, my job is to put Haiti on the map. So basically what I do here is I connect with powerhouses. So we are actually partners of Google and Facebook, and we believe in tech. So we've been able to bring all of that to Haiti, and all that attention is really driven by the history of the country and also Haitians themselves, who are actually quite welcoming. And when you come to Haiti, there's great opportunity for you to see nature, but also to be in the historical vibe of what this country represents. We're not just the first Black republic, we also help other countries get their independence. We also help the US also in the stamina fight, getting their own independence as well. So we are really, really proud of our past, but the question is, how are we building the future? So that's the whole point. And we are actually a 10 million people country, so that's not like the biggest tech opportunity, but it's also the best way for you to test anything here and scale it real quick throughout the Caribbean and also back to Africa, right? Where really home is for all of us around the world, right? So we've been able to already start scaling some of our operations with Facebook in other parts of the Caribbean. So we really want to be able to have more Black people as well to do these partnerships. I work a lot with a lot of white people, so opening in these tech companies. But what's going on with the Black people, right? So I think that's why I think MyPad is phenomenal in terms of network of people. So guys, I'm really connected here. Really happy to connect you. We are actually the biggest spot of innovators down in country. So we work with developers, a lot of startups. So all of you here could be mentors. You want to connect with Haitians, you want to share stories, and we can get you that. So that's kind of what I do. I'm kind of Mr. Connector. So you have an idea. I mean, you want to connect with entrepreneurs here, scale things to the Caribbean. I'm here. I'm excited to be a part of this with all of you, you know? So that's, and I think
it's good to hear from you.
Yeah, we are all the same kind of thing because we're all connected. We're all trying to move things. So I'm not special. We are all special at MyPad, right?
That's amazing. So now we know who to go to. Haiti. Anything?
Yes, absolutely.
Haiti.
Yes, Busi.
Yeah, let me give back to Busisa who wants to say something.
Yeah, I need to say something, Vusi, because you made a comment and they say you don't have to comment, but I'd like to just come in there a little bit. I think this is a fantastic platform, and Vusi, with your networks and I mean, you know, the things you've done in the venture capital space, private equity space, it would be really sad if we didn't create some sort of ecosystem using what, you know, the work that Camille has done. So fully in agreement. And, you know, I see 3 areas. The first one is talking about tourism and visiting, Africa visiting Africa, Africans visiting parts of Africa. With the curve that we've seen on COVID-19, you can see Africa is pretty flat, and I hope it stays that way. So when countries open up, we should be taking advantage. We are all planning December holidays right now, and we should be taking advantage of visiting African countries visiting, or Africans visiting African countries. And I was just amazed to see that, you know, very few of us have been to Rwanda. I had a trip planned just before COVID, so I got disturbed there. And then secondly, I think the area of trade is a very important one. Africans trading with Africans. We are still below 22% on intra-Africa trade.
Yes.
So we need Africans trading with Africans. And I think this platform, Camille, which is far-reaching and very wide, provides a fantastic opportunity for us to leverage and at least begin some ecosystem around trade. And the third area is investment. So it's visit, trade, invest. An investment creating energy around entrepreneurship. Vusi, you were mentioning migration problem. I know a lot of our waiters in South Africa come from Zimbabwe, but we've been trying to turn that on its head to say we need to create things in Zimbabwe so that you don't have a migration problem. And I know it applies to many, whether you are in Uganda, Kenya migration, and so on and so on. So I think we have an opportunity, colleagues, friends, to create something really meaningful that will impact not just us and our personnel, which would be great if we could make money whilst we are changing Africa, and that's the whole point. So I think, you know, I want to lend my support. I am the chairman of ZIDA. ZIDA is Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, recently set up. I chair that. It's modeled along the lines of Rwanda Development Board, and I've been in touch with people like Claire Akamanzi, and we are modeling these. Whilst there's challenges in Zimbabwe, Vusi, you're right, but there's also things that are happening, and people like myself, young, being given opportunities to lead and to make a difference.
Absolutely,
because we're
thanks.
still 4 years after Mugabe. You know, it's not long enough for us to start seeing change, but we're working on it, and I think investment is really one of the areas that will transform what we do and what Zimbabwe stands for. Thanks, Camille.
Love you, brother. It's always good to see you, Musaso. Listen, we have 15 minutes. We've been here. We're over time, but guess what? You can't get enough of this, right? So I'm like a kid in a candy store doing this work with my pad. So 15 more minutes. Let's just kind of restrict ourselves to 15 more minutes and kind of just wrap it up. And I wanted to give Regina, class of 2020, Jean-Baptiste.
Jean-Baptiste. John.
Where is she? Did she just, okay, she's here. Anyone else?
You say Jean-Baptiste, I say Haitian. Like if she's not a Haitian, if she's not Haitian, I leave the call now. If she's not Haitian.
Camille, I'd also like to say something from New York.
Absolutely, absolutely. Liz, we're going to get to you. Absolutely. Good to see you, love.
Good to see you too.
This is in my class. I'm 2019 Camille.
No, I know, but it's open to all my patterns, regardless of what class. But guess what? Mark just made a bet that if you were not from Haiti, he's going to leave the call. So let's check in on that. Let's check in on that real quick. So are you?
I am from Haiti. It is a very Haitian. Mark is not.
You don't have to leave, Mark. Just stay. You got this. I love it. How you been?
I've been doing great. It's been so good to listen in on these conversations and hear what everybody is doing around the world. It's so phenomenal. And congratulations to you, Camille, for just the great group of people that you have the ability to pull together, and your team has the ability to pull from around the world. It's so excellent. It's so great to virtually meet all of y'all and hear all the phenomenal work that everyone is doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's good to see you. I mean, class of 2020, you know, I keep saying this, right? Every year, your class was the best class, right? Until I say that to the 2020 class, right? Liz, you know that, right? 2019, you were the best. Oh my goodness.
The bomb.
I tell you. Go ahead, honey. Let's hear from you.
So, Camille, so proud of you. You know, you and I have been connected since 2005 on LinkedIn.
Longer than most of these cats.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. So here's to connectology. First of all, just really so excited about being part of the class of 2019. I'm one of the over 40 folks, but I came through my philanthropy work. One of the things I want to mention is that as a result of going through my through the Momentum education,
Yes.
I went through the whole program. I actually founded the International Social Impact Institute this year, a couple of months ago, really focused on making sure that social impact leaders, so those who are working in nonprofits and social entrepreneurship who traditionally don't have access to the resources, to the training and so on and so forth, to be able to be effective, have that access. And so my first partner is with Hunter College, which is part of the City University of New York, to make sure that underrepresented groups who right now absolutely need the funds to be able to continue to do the work that they're doing, to support people who are, living in poverty, or people who are just really need communities that need to be able to be educated and so on and so forth, have the resources and understand where to raise funds from, who they can partner with to make sure that they can keep the lights on. And then I'm partnering VUSI with a university in South Africa, as well as those folks who are in Colombia with another university in Colombia, so that folks who traditionally don't have access to philanthropic funding will now be able to access it, and to the resources and training to be able to be effective in the work that they do. So that's
Love
what
it.
I was able to
And
create, coming out of my pad
momentum.
and coming out of Momentum. What'd you say?
Absolutely. Robinson was there earlier. Did you hear him speak?
Yeah, I did. I did
Okay.
see. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
All right,
and I'm in New York, everybody, but originally from Uganda.
Absolutely. And let me give a big, final shout out, at least from my end, to Nina Silva in Brazil. Love you loads, and the work that you're doing in Brazil. The Black Bank. Vusi, this woman is building the Black Bank in the largest diaspora community in the world. I mean, she just blows my mind, right? Black economic wealth, right? And she's doing this in Brazil, because when you look at the access to capital for people of African descent, you think it's bad in America. I mean, you would find it even worse in everywhere else in the world. And what you're doing in Brazil is truly remarkable. And whatever support you need from the continent. So Ernesto, you're here, all the Brazilians, I want to keep saying this. You're the biggest, second largest population of us in the world. Whatever support you need, Africa should be here. We want to be a part of that growth and that success.
Yeah, we need to grow together. We can learn about technologies, fintech. Vusi talked about it. The problems that we have about legislation in Brazil is the same. It's really crazy to have a fintech here, but we need to grow our funding. My movement,
access to capital.
Did you hear me? My movement, we need capital.
Today. I don't understand.
The Black Money movement that I founded with Alan Soares, we started 3 years ago, and during this pandemic, we could to do a funding, basic income for Black families. Yeah, we have nowadays 400 Black families in Brazil with a basic income that we get with donations from people and the companies, and we are trying to transfer this income for our families, because in Brazil we have the problem not just about the unemployed, but when we have a business, we don't have the credit funding for this business.
Vusi, are you hearing that?
We are trying to keep this not just an emergency, but we needed to continue this movement. We needed to come money from China, from other companies or other countries for here, Brazil, because here
we need
don't
black
have
money.
We don't have the improvement for the government. We don't have the support of the other mixed populations. When we talk about Afro descent, people say, oh no, we live in a racial democracy. It's not important to talk about it. everybody's ego, but when you see the percent of the unemployed people who is get out of the formal education and who is dying on the streets, is just Black people.
It's Black people. It's everywhere.
We are trying to construct the idea to be the one people and one destination. We are trying to keep the mind in Brazil, because we are really big, okay? We are really, it's a continent. Brazil is like a continent.
It's
and
a
Black
whole
people in Brazil are different between us. And when we talk about, oh, we are Afro-descent, we needed to learn with our brothers and sisters. People look for Africa like something so distant, so far. And in Black Money Movement, we are trying to do this Black Identify together, the technology education and the financial service. That is it. It's about
Lena, you know what it is? Don't worry. I mean, the language we all understand is green. So capital is a language that we can support, you know, with and come up with best practices. The wealth that we have to build now has to be white, has to be Black, because white money is not going to give us enough money to topple, you know, white privilege. Do you know what I mean? So we need to build Black money that can help us. White money will give us just enough to fail, right? So we need the source of our money to be real and Black and support us to build businesses and collective wealth. So Vusi, final thought to you, and Rolake.
May I just jump in very quickly here, Camille?
Okay, Ernesto.
Yeah, Ernesto, let's let you go first.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, but it's just because over the last year, I've been trying to connect with other Black Brazilian scientists in science, technology, and engineering, STEM fields. And to my surprise, most people don't know each other. They don't know they exist. So we're now trying to build this network from grounds up. And and I've been with other people trying to lead this movement. And one thing that we thought about was to try to connect with Black scientists in Africa. And then we learned about the next Einstein Forum and the Black in AI movement. And in other academic institutions. And one thing that we are all identifying is also the problem with accessing to funds, because we've suffered deep cuts in public funding for science. And of course, now we have only one private funding institution, and they don't fund a lot of Black scientists. So again, we see the problem of, you know, we need to have access to grants, to money to do our research. We need to connect. And I think we need to connect with the bigger environment, the bigger ecosystem of business. So
no, absolutely. We'll take white money, but the point is we need to convert white money into Black money, right? So that we can,
But even through Black money, what I mean is, like, through Black money, we tap into this money to fund also innovation and research initiatives done by Black scientists.
Absolutely. Listen, you remember what Vusi said. If you put up a placard and write Africa on it, right, and put it anywhere in the world, any street in the world, and tell people to write what they think, innovation, science, and technology would not be on that list. So I would love to work with you on the MyPad Fourth Industrial Revolution list, which is looking for Black scientists around the world.
We have to change this mentality.
Absolutely.
So that's where, and then I stop here. Thank you very much.
All right, wrap it up, Vusi, wrap it up.
Yeah, I want to, Rolake, and if it's okay with you, I think I'm going to hand over to you as the gracious Rose to close this, but I did just want to leave everybody with this final thought from me. So one of the tricks that the world pulls on us as people of color is it convinces us that we are the only ones that see that color. It does that by saying things like, why do you guys have to say Black all the time? Why do you guys ask for Black businesses? Why do you guys want a Black bank? Why Black? But it doesn't ask any of the other indigenous demographies or race groups this. So Jews are not asked why every Jewish person gets automatic citizenship in Israel if they want.
In Israel, yeah, birthright.
Jews are not asked, why is it that if you look at any venture capital firm, not only in Africa, but the world over, if it's Jewish run, it's going to have a predominantly Jewish investment philosophy. It won't say so on their website, it's not on their marketing package, but it's how it reacts and what it does, right? And if you studied even the Asian communities, study the Indians, study everywhere in the world where every other group gathers, they give each other the permission to support each other, guilt-free. But for some other strange reason, every time we do it, we're asked the question, why do you have to say Black all the time? And so I think there is a need for us to be more deliberate, more circumspect about that, and make sure that we don't allow ourselves to be guilted out of our Blackness. And so there's almost this idea that you've now got to opt out of your Blackness to opt into the system of a meritocracy, almost as if being Black in a meritocratic society are two mutually exclusive things.
Got it.
So if you go, why don't you have a Black executive? The presumption is you're saying, remove meritocracy, just put a Black person there. That's not what you're saying. What you're saying is, you clearly have Black people of merit. Why are none of them ascending in the ladder, right?
Very good. You got it.
So we have to find a way of pushing that position more and more and more and more and more, and being deliberate about it and forcing the conversation. And how you know you're forcing the conversation is when the people who are respondents show up to the conversation involuntarily because they're forced to, because the moment is right. That's what Black Lives Matter did in the US, particularly after the killing of George Floyd. It forced the authorities to show up to the conversation involuntarily. And until we're getting people who are holding the levers of economic power the world over to show up to the conversation of Black economic progress involuntarily, we're just not going to be doing it right. So we have a long way to go. Rolake, I'm going to hand over to you.
And great roundup, Lucy. There is
quick one. Let me put a shameless plug in for tomorrow. Tomorrow's event, the recognition.
The ceremony,
at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So please, everybody, join us. It's going to be fabulous. I mean, there is Jonita Dew from CNN. She's going to pick up on your perspective. We'll see, I think, just some of the comments.
So the CNN Chief Diversity Officer is our keynote tomorrow. So.
Sorry to cut you off, Rolake. I just wanted to do that shameless plug. Sorry.
It's your show. Okay. You're the executive producer. You better be selling it. All right.
I just wanted to sort of ride on the wave of Vusi's words to say, let's keep that conversation going. Let's keep the momentum going. And I have to send out real appreciation to Camille and the team for being so gracious as to ask us to co-host. It's been as much a learning experience for me as I guess it's been for everybody. It's been a real pleasure to do this with Vusi, such a great guy, and clearly so much to offer this continent. So grateful to have you in our corner and in this space.
The hype is real.
And I have to say thank you to everybody, because you're all in different time zones. And I know, for instance, for Lola in Stockholm, it's like way past midnight. So thanks for being so gracious with your time, guys. All around the world, it's been an absolute pleasure being on this journey with you. Thank you, Camille and the team, for this opportunity. So I guess it's not
good
more
night.
left to say than good night. See you guys around.
Thank you so much.
Love you all.
Yes, good
Bye,
night.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Good night, guys.
Everyone, good night. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Do the wave.
People of African descent are high achievers and exist all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places and high positions, making positive contributions. In the spirit of recognition, we celebrate the most influential people of African descent in the MyPad Global Reckoning edition, where we showcase outstanding personalities at the highest positions in the largest, most influential and iconic institutions in the world, because our representation matters on the decision-making tables in politics and governance, business and entrepreneurship, media and culture, and humanitarian endeavors worldwide. Don't miss the MyPad Recognition Week, following the opening of the annual United Nations